Okay, thank you. We will reconvene our Housing Authority agenda. For the record, there was no action taken out of closed session, so there's nothing to report. Is there any public comment on the Housing Authority? Hearing none, we'll go on to confirmation of agenda. Any corrections, deletions from staff?
Not on the Housing Authority agenda.
From
no.
agency members?
No.
Okay. Not, there are no announcements or presentations or written communications. There's no business, no study session. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion second, please vote. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, John.
Mm-hmm.
With that, we will reconvene the city council meeting and start with and I will report that there was also no action taken on closed session, so there's no report for that. If you could please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Place your hand over your heart and begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Happy New Year to everybody. At this time, I will call on public comment for matters not on the agenda. If you would like to speak on a matter on the agenda, you need an orange form that's located in the back, and it can be given to our city clerk. Right now, we'll call upon those for items not on the agenda, and we have two. First, we'll bring up Alan Worthy. Hello, Alan.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me, and congratulations to you, Ms. Mayor, and to all new city council members and our admin. I missed the first meeting. I was having car problems, and unfortunately I had another bad fall, but again, congratulations to you and your lovely hospital. I hate to bring that up again, except that, you know, they're extraordinary. But also the purpose really to bring it up this time is that my dogs were impounded. I don't know if this is on or not, is it? Yeah. Again, just a lot of thanks and gratitude to Kevin Meredith at Animal Control, you know, who I guess was responsible for impounding my dogs, and went and picked them up, and there was a note from him and a bag of dog food and a gift card from Wendy's for me. I got to eat along with the dog, so I greatly appreciate that. The good news is that I am prevailing across the board in the lawsuit against Eisenhower and the other defendants. I was going to give credit to the Desert Sun, and I don't know, surely all of you saw this on the front page from the editor, Greg Burton, a Desert Sun newsroom for a new age, pledging, you know, all of the changes and whatnot. But unfortunately, I've just hung up the phone with Al Franco, the new letter to the editor guy, and they are refusing to publish my letter to the editor criticizing the city of Palm Springs et al. And the fact that throughout this entire nightmare of grand larceny, assault and battery, not named in the lawsuit, the assault and battery of David Tallman. I've been given permission by my attorney to mention that and his name, that the city has refused or failed to respond to. Although my letter to the editor didn't mention the assault and battery, it mentioned the other, you know, everything else. And I've just been told they're not going to publish it. It's too, the green lights just come on, so I'll rely on you to stop me. I'm shocked and disappointed at the Desert Sun because, as I've said before, in this great desert full of, you know, golf tournaments and film festivals, it can't be all about the galas and the awards and all of that. It has to be about all of these great cities. Small cities are put together as one big city with big city crime. And I thought that this meant that they were going to cover it, but they've just confirmed they will not. They consider it libel and unsubstantiated. Well, I'm here to tell you, obviously, it's not unsubstantiated. I wouldn't stand here before you and lie about the way I've been treated, and the fact that Dave Nazepper of the Desert Sun nailed it in the article which I have cited, asking City Attorney Doug Holland to resign. I've been harassed and screamed at, and in fact assaulted by the most corrupt police cop on the force, and that's confirmed by his fellow police officers. You've all heard my voice crack here more than once with regard to the problem and to my, with regard to my dear father. You know, there's no excuse for the way we've been treated. Stretching here So thank you, Ms. Mayor, and congratulations.
Thank you, Alan, and I'm happy that you've reported some positive news on Kevin, and this is always a learning experience for our law enforcement to know that they are out there doing a good job for the residents of La Quinta.
It's superb, and
So thank you.
Mr. David Walton, Lieutenant Walton as
Absolutely.
well. Superb.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nita Quinn.
Hi there.
How are you, Nita?
And good evening and Happy New Year. I've left a packet for you all for your future reading pleasure. And again, my name is Nita Quinn, and I live on Via Sevilla in La Quinta. And I want to congratulate our new mayor, Mayor Evans.
Thank you.
And our new councilman, Mr. Ratty and Mr. Pena. Congratulations. And I want to thank you for wanting to be a watchman for this great city of La Quinta. That's what I call it. You, our council members, are our watchmen. It is your duty to be our protectors for our freedoms, our civil liberties, and our American way of life. Last month, I saw an article in the Desert Sun, and I quote in part, Thomas Jefferson said, "That which governs closest to the people governs best." That would be our local leaders. If there is going to be positive change in government, it must start here. You hold the public trust. We put our faith and belief in you. I had prepared another talk for last meeting, December 16th, and I've given you a copy. I wasn't able to attend, so I apologize. And it is important for you to read because in that speech, I covered the general plan, our general plan and the work that we did that year. But for tonight, I have changed some parts by adding. First and foremost, before anything else, we need to put God back into our lives. Our country needs to be turned around. And let's begin with our city. Without asking for His direction and His guidance, we cannot build a better tomorrow. I want to quote, in part, President George Washington from New York in his October 1789 Thanksgiving proclamation. Whereas it is the duty of all nations to acknowledge the providence of Almighty God, to obey His will, to be grateful, and humbly to implore His protection and favor. For your further reading, I have enclosed a copy of that proclamation. This was how our country began giving thanks to God. Thomas Jefferson asked us to question with boldness, does our city need more government, an all-encompassing CVAG, the CV link, smart meters, more control? No, we need you to be our watchman for the city of La Quinta, not Palm Springs, not Rancho Mirage, not Sacramento, but La Quinta, for its protection against the tentacles of government and its sustainable development. Another question, does what's best for La Quinta take precedence over CVAG? We need protection against the government's want for control of our daily lives, ruling us, taxing us, feeing us, regulating us, dictating to us what we do, where we live, how we live, where we go, how we get there. Use that CV link. Get on that bike. Get some exercise. Maybe use the movie theater to indoctrinate the masses. Remember what Mr. Gruber said, the part about how stupid we are, how we can be manipulated to accept what the government tells us. We are not stupid. We are busy with our daily lives, working, trying to run a business, raising our families. That's why we depend on you, our watchmen. We as individuals know best how to raise our children. We know best how to live, worship, work, and play. I've added 2 more books for your reading pleasure that I'd like for you to pick up. One is called The Harbinger. The other is The Mystery of the Shemitah, both written by Rabbi Jonathan Cahn. When we put God back into our lives, our city and our country, we will then build a better tomorrow. So when enacting your duties, ask for His guidance, and by doing so, may He bless our city, its council, and our United States of America. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you, Nita. We appreciate being charged with the watchman role, and we are honored to serve you and the residents of La Quinta and the Valley.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we will move to confirmation of agenda.
Madam Mayor, we have no changes to the agenda, but I'd like to use this opportunity to introduce our new Director of our Emergency Operations Center, Tawny Castro. If you remember, Greg Butler retired in 2014, and he was both our building official as well as our Emergency Operations Center's director. And so we went on a quest to find a replacement and determined that it would be most cost-effective to contract with the Riverside County Fire Department for the service that would not only provide it in a cost-effective means, but also provide a seamless interface between our emergency operations when an emergency occurs, as well as those county-wide. So, Ms. Castro, if you would at least stand up, if not come forward. It's a new member of our team.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm honored to be here. I'm looking forward to really making an amazing emergency management program for the city, working with you, the city officials, the city employees, Riverside County OES, as well as CAL FIRE and our CERT volunteers to have an integrated cooperative emergency management program that really makes a great customer service for the city and the employees and the people who live in the city and call it home in the face of an emergency or a natural disaster. So thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here, and I look forward to working with all of you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Welcome, Tawny. Thank you. And I'd also like to just reintroduce Fire Chief Alex Gregg. If you could stand up, Alex, as you officially started yesterday, correct? Okay. Again, welcome as our new Fire Chief for La Quinta. At this time, we'll move on to announcements, presentations, and written communications. And we do have a presentation by Queen Scheherazade and her court on behalf of the Riverside County Fair and National Date Festival.
Well, good afternoon. To start, I would like to thank the mayor and the city council members for having us here today and supporting the fair. My name is Carla Cabrera. I'm a recent graduate from West Shores High School, and I'm currently a second-year student attending California State University San Bernardino in Palm Desert. I'm actually studying right now to become a nurse, so my hopes are to obtain a master's degree as a registered nurse. And now it is my pleasure to introduce to you Princess Danyazar.
Hello everyone, I'm your 2015 Princess Danyazad. My name is Shannon Slankard. I go to La Quinta High School right now and I am a senior. At my school, I'm a part of my Interact Club. I'm actually the vice president and I've also attended RILA and I am also an alumnus. I am on my debate club and I've also been in cross country for 3 years. My future plans include becoming a pediatric oncologist, and so far I've applied to 6 colleges, so here's hoping. I would like to introduce your 2015 Princess Jasmine.
Hello, my name is Morgan Lawrence, and I'm your 2015 Princess Jasmine. I'm currently a senior at Hemet High School, where I take on many leadership roles and responsibilities, but my biggest is being the student body president. Next year, I plan on going to Azusa Pacific University to get a double major in communications and graphic design to hopefully someday become a corporate event designer. So now I'm going to turn it over to our queen to tell you more information about the fair.
Well, this year, the fair will be starting on February 13th, and it will run up until Sunday, February 22nd. We have special promotions, which include on the very first day, Friday, February 13th, the first 5 hours are free admission, which is from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. We also have on February 17th, which is Canada Day. Canadians are admitted for free with the proof of residency. We also have February 19th. You can show a receipt of a $5 purchase or more from O'Reilly Auto Parts store, and you get free admission. We also have February 20th, the Fantasy $5 Friday, which all days admission is $5, sponsored by Fantasy Springs Resort Casino. And lastly, we have Tuesday through Thursday, we have Kids Days. So one child is admitted for free with one paid adult, and this only happens from 3 p.m. up until the time we close at 10 p.m. Now, I'm going to turn it back over to our Princess Danyazad, and she'll give you more additional information about the fair.
So, after visiting all of the amazing exhibits and riding all of the carnival rides, stay for the amazing headliner entertainment. This year, we were super excited to have country western singer Brett Eldridge, accordion player and singer Ramon Ayala, well-known singer Andy Grammer, and we can't forget an old favorite, Brick House by the Commodores.
Classic.
And
You, I was going to say, can you remember? You're told to say that. That's for our benefit. That's okay. It's okay, Shannon.
also, while visiting the fair, make sure you take in all of the camel and ostrich races, the demolition derby, the monster trucks, and the beautiful nightly musical pageant. And I'll turn it back over to Princess Jasmine.
So, of course, what would be a fair without all the fair food? I recommend trying a date shake to start off, or try one of the many free samples of many different kinds of dates there are. We also have a variety of choices from giant turkey legs, Indian fry bread, roasted corn on the cob, various barbecue items, funnel cakes, and we can't forget our award-winning cinnamon rolls. So also stop by the many different free sample stations where different chefs will be preparing their local date recipes. So now I will turn it back over to our queen.
Well, once again, we would like to thank you for having us here today and supporting the fair. We look forward to seeing you at the fair. And if you have any questions for us, we'd like to know.
Questions? Comments?
I don't have a question, but again, I'm just overwhelmed at the talent that's before us and your ambitions, and congratulations to all three of you.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Last year, they had an animal adoption session at the fair. Are they looking at doing that again?
again this year.
Okay. Yes.
Madam Mayor, if we could give them a party gift and maybe give them a city pin that they could put on their sash, I'm sure that they could certainly wear that proudly.
If we can-
For our Quinta High.
If we can muster up, yeah, absolutely, pins for our queens and their chaperone, that would be great. I would only like to make one comment. It came up last year, I'm not sure if it was here or just in general at the fair. They do a Canada Day and provide free admission. There needs to be a Veterans Day.
There is.
There is? Is it free admission as well?
Every
for-
day is free
Every day is
admission.
veterans.
It's the veteran plus 3 guests, and that is, of course, with the proper ID.
Okay.
Thank you.
I would promote that in the
Absolutely.
next city
Every
visits.
day.
That's very important to us. Okay. Congratulations, and I'll be there
Thank
eating
you.
everything fried under the sun and walking it off. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Carla, Shannon, Morgan. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
They've got the whole county covered this time between West Shores and Hemet and La Quinta. That's outstanding. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. With that, we will move on to the consent calendar. Any changes from staff? Any changes from council?
Madam Mayor, I would like to pull item 6 and make it into a business item, business session 2.
Okay, we will pull number 6 and make it business session item number 2. Any other changes? With that, we'll ask for a motion.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar as amended.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. With that, we'll move on to business session item number 1, adopt a policy regarding unscheduled vacancies on city boards and commissions. Who is providing a staff report on that? Susan.
Madam Mayor, honorable council members, as you know, we have 10 boards and commissions that you appoint members to. We've set it up so all the terms now expire on June 30th in staggered years, so that helps organize things. The current practice is to do the annual appointments. We usually do it in May of every year. And then if vacancies come up throughout the year, and some years there are a lot, some years there are very little, as you know, we advertise for a month or two. We then put it on the agenda. You do interviews and you do appointments ad hoc as they come up. We want to examine that practice. The recommendation for efficiency and the savings in cost, because each time we do this, it's a minimum of $300 for advertising in the Desert Sun. We do advertise at no cost on our website, on our bulletin boards, and in the gym in addition. We've looked at what other cities do and considered what we might do here to streamline it a little bit. And I've put down 5 different options. It can be a combination of these options that, you know, we can manipulate it however best it works for us. The first is, during the annual appointments, select 1 or 2 alternates at that time to fill vacancies that come up through the year. That way, we're not re-advertising, we're not re-interviewing, re-selecting. Those folks would be in the wings, so to speak. We think that's a good possibility. The next is to accept applications all year round so that we're not advertising every time there's an opening. We just accept them continuously. And from that, we'll have a pool that anytime there is an opening, we can bring them right away to council without waiting a month or 2 to get applications in. Now, that can be combined with the first one also. We can select alternatives and we can keep an open application throughout the year. The third is to leave the seat vacant until the one-time annual appointments in May every year. Another is to have 2 appointments during the year, semi-annual, one in May or June, and then one in the winter, say January. And then any vacancy would wait until the nearest semi-annual appointment period. And the last is to continue just as we're doing now, which you're all familiar with. Now, staff is recommending the first alternative of selecting alternates, and possibly number 2 also, keeping applications, accepting them all through the year. And that can be done with every one of these, actually. And the reason we're doing that is because our residents would have a reliable schedule as to when they know when this is happening. It happens the same month every year. They don't have to get, as it is now, if they're interested, they have to keep an eagle eye on the paper or the bulletin boards or continually go to the website to say, oh, is there an opening in the one I'm interested in? If we had a very set schedule, I think it would be an advantage for our residents. Also having alternates, we would have 1 or 2 folks for each commission who hopefully would be inspired to attend the meetings and become much more fluent in the subject matter. And that's always very positive when you have additional people interested in what's going on in the city. And hopefully they would remain involved. There are some negatives, which I've pointed out in the staff report, but they can be overcome by making an exception. In other words, if we had a board or commission, if you selected number 3 or 4 where we have set appointment periods during the year and we had vacancies, no alternates, had vacancies and had to wait, if there were that commission had a tendency to have tie votes, it would be a problem. So we would have to make an exception if you selected that one. That if that occurred, then we would go out for additional applications and go to interviews and appointments before the council off schedule. So those are some of the options we came up with. Other cities use these. They use a combination of these. So it's really whatever works best for this council. That's the end of my report. If you have any questions, let me know, please.
Questions for Susan? Yes, Christy. Excuse me, on option number 2, does this create extra work for you or would you find that a more efficient way of handling it? And the reason I ask this is, as an application comes in, you then would be required to, wouldn't you be required to notify that person of when they would be here and so forth? So that would be my only concern, would be just more work.
Accepting applications all year would not be a problem for my office. We would, we have people coming in throughout the year anyway. And as it is now, we tell them that we don't accept applications until an application period is advertised.
Okay.
So right now, we would just stamp it in, we would explain to them the process, and keep a tickler of these applications.
Okay, all right.
Other questions?
Comments?
Oh, I do have a couple questions. So in the current practice, I definitely don't like saying no. You can't do it now, you have to wait until the open period. So I like the concept of accepting things all year round as a possibility, and with the ongoing acknowledgement of receipt of those versus just the filing, so there's not follow-up required by them, and it's more proactive by us. Obviously, if we were to go the alternate route, they would be non-voting, non-paid members, correct? With some, hopefully, self-initiative to stay involved in a commission that they may or may not be used for, but at least they'll be engaged in the topics of discussion.
That's right, and in that case, they wouldn't be required to even attend.
Right.
Yeah.
So in the event, though, one would be needed, would we look at the commission members to decide which one of the alternates, if there were two, they get to decide who gets that vacancy filled? Does it come back to council? Those are things we'd have to consider if we had one or two alternatives per commission, if they were available.
I would think it would come back to the council to choose, if we have two alternates, to choose which one. So we still have, the aspect of who's going to be on that planning commission or any of those boards or commissions.
We'd be
Well, Madam
selecting-
Mayor, when you select the alternates, you can
Alternate one,
number
alternate
them
two?
as they would for jury.
And then what time frame or what changes would be required to either the ordinances or the provision of, how many members? What's the approval process to make any changes that are decided upon in terms of coming up on May?
This selection process is a policies and procedure. It is not by ordinance that this is set up. So whatever you decide tonight will immediately go into action. No resolution is needed, no ordinance, just a motion.
Well, I would have to say, if for the new council members, I think you do know as well as the existing, we've had some outstanding applicants that have presented themselves for our commissions, and we just don't have enough spots a lot of times for them, and it'd be great to give them a role in some sort, even if it's non-voting, to keep them engaged, because there's so much going on, and the more community involvement we can have, the better off we're going to be. So, I mean, I do like the opportunity of doing alternates and prioritizing those, also keeping that open application process year-round, so that we are a can-do city and a welcoming city for anybody who wants to commit their time to serve with us. I'd love to be able to decide on something so we know coming up to the May, we can do that as the first process this May with our new appointments. So with that, I will leave it to the council.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, if I can, I as well like, adding number 2 to number 1, so we can accept it throughout the year, but add an alternative at that point when we make those choices as alternate 1 and alternate 2, so we know
So that work's
who's going to
done.
step in what order. Yeah, I like that idea as well.
I would agree.
Okay.
All right, well, with that, Madam Mayor,
Thank
then
you.
I'll make a motion that we change ordinance to add
Policy.
items.
Policy.
Policy,
Policy.
thank you, to items 1 and 2, that we combine items, or choices 1 and 2, to create in the new policy. So we add an alternate at that point, alternate 1 and potentially alternate 2 if needed.
Second.
There's a motion and second for the proposed motion. Please vote. Nomination. Motion passes unanimously. All right, thank you, Susan. With that, we'll move on to business session item number 2, the approval of the professional services agreement with Matrix Consulting Group for a crime trend and service study.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I will turn it over to Ted Shove to provide you the staff report.
Happy New Year, Madam Mayor and Council. The contract in front of you is for a crime service trend and service analysis study. Approximately March to May of 2013, there was some dialogue between council, staff, the public, and a community outreach group that precipitated a petition with over 150 signatures. The petition essentially was asking for the city to evaluate or explore alternatives to the rising police contract, as well as alternatives to law enforcement service contract increases, essentially increases of hiring additional law enforcement officers. With that in mind, last year the law enforcement services contract increased approximately 5% with a projected 7% increase this year. As a result, staff began and continues to work collaboratively with the Sheriff's Department to contain contract costs, identify different measures, as well as contain contract costs. The next step in this process was to retain an independent third party. And one of the things out of the dialogue that council set aside funds to retain a consultant. So as a result, an independent third party is proposed to be retained to identify answer two specific questions. The first is, are La Quinta's current service deployment levels optimized to address the community service profile? The second is, can operational efficiencies be identified to offset annual contract increases? The proposed vendor, Matrix Consulting Group, went through an exhaustive evaluation process with staff, including an interview, and their proposed time frame would be 14 weeks. Pending approval tonight, the contract would be concluded approximately last week in April, first week in May, with a final report and presentation to council on recommendations. That was all.
That concludes your part. Okay, questions of staff? Comments?
I have a question. The question is in regard, will the study look at the use of technology as well for crime deterrent? How we use technology for crime deterrent? Is that part of the study?
That certainly can be, we can add, so once, should the council approve the agreement tonight, what our plan is to then do is work collaboratively with the Sheriff's Department to now refine the certain areas of focus. So that can certainly be an item that we focus on. But I would say is certainly, in addition, our assistant police chief, as well as the staff, we have made technology overall high importance in looking at crime deterrence throughout the city. So it's a subcomponent that as staff we've been working with as well. It definitely can make it a component of this study.
So the focus will be also in crime prevention, steps that can be taken in crime prevention.
Correct.
And how often does Matrix perform these? How often do cities on average have a study like this performed?
It largely depends. Matrix in particular has conducted over 250 of these studies in the last 30 years. Out of the three submissions, they were considered the most qualified. They are out of California, and they have extensive experience within California law enforcement agencies. So to answer your question, this is not something that's done often by individual municipalities, but when it is done, this particular group seems to be the premier expert in this type of study.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Having said that, it would have been nice to have some sort of background on the firm and kind of what they've done, the principles involved, what their experience is. things like that, to kind of better get to know the firm. I think that would have been very helpful. Maybe a copy of the petition that was circulated to see what kind of triggered that as well, too.
Noted.
Other questions of staff? No comments? Yes.
The petition, can you give us more information? Excuse me, tell me about this petition. This is the first I've heard of this petition.
This was a petition that the residents, I think primarily of the Cove, came forward with when we were going through the budget deliberations back in 2013 for the 12-13
Okay, that
budget.
one from 2013.
And it was at that
Okay.
time we added a community services officer
Right. Yes.
to our police profile.
Okay, I didn't know if it was something current here in 2014. And the timing for this report, you're saying April or May?
Yes, so the dialogue was between April and May of 2013 that precipitated council to retain funds or set aside funds for this study.
Okay. Okay, I mean, the timing aspect from a budget standpoint, I mean, all our budgets are put together in April and May, so they're ready in June. We have a study session, I want to say, in May or June. May regarding the budget, so we'll have that report prior to the budget, the study session on the budget meeting.
That is correct. So we will have a final report to present back to you, but in addition, there will be dialogue along the way. So it won't just come out to you out of the blue, but there will be several updates with respect to this along the way.
Okay. Well, you know, I think that Riverside County Sheriff's Department does a great job. And Sheriff Sniff, the Captain Schaus, and Lieutenant Bolton, I think they do an outstanding job for us. You know, we communicated to the sheriff last year, I believe, that the public service or public protection budget is almost 60% of our budget, I believe, for 2014-15.
Total.
Right.
Combined with fire.
Right.
Yes.
The combiner is, and so, which is much higher than it's been in the past. In the past, it was down in the mid-30%. So this is climbing, and so I can appreciate the study, and I can appreciate, you know, to look at efficiencies in technology to make sure all these are included to have as much cost controls as we can. But I do want to say, I think Riverside County Sheriff's Department's done an outstanding job.
I mean, I would agree. Public safety remains our #1 priority by far, and in La Quinta, we've always made the decision over the years to have a higher ratio of officers per residence than probably any other city in Riverside County. Would that be a true statement? And we've made those choices, and this is yet another step in the process as we've evaluated every aspect of our business, either through budget planning or efficiencies or streamlining or redefining our local government processes in how do we make sure that we're maximizing the dollars being spent to ensure the safety of our residents and getting what we need. So this is yet another step in that process, and you know, I look forward to not only looking at the fundamentals of what Matrix typically looks at in terms of crime trends. I talked to Frank yesterday about, you know, can they also bring to us ideas from other cities and forces that maybe go beyond your public safety piece, and how is it that the two entities collaborate to just think outside just the law enforcement box of how do we, I don't know, how do we proactively either do more education or work with our youth or provide services to other cities. Maybe our, you know, group of officers are for hire for certain aspects of their skill sets so that it's also generating some kind of offset of the expenses. I don't know. It's just cities are doing interesting things out there, and I want to make sure that we're taking advantage of them if we can and we have the workforce to do so. So I look forward to learning about the process as it goes along and hopefully getting the opportunity to continue to ask questions as we get feedback. Christy.
Yes. Where is Matrix located? You say California, but
Mountain View
Mountain
is
View.
where their headquarters at, but their consulting team is across the state.
Okay, all right. Have they done any consulting within Riverside County?
Not Riverside County specifically, no.
Okay.
But they have done.
Orange County.
Orange County is part of the next.
San Bernardino County.
Okay.
Orange and San Bernardino.
And I'm a little confused on the dates here. If this were approved tonight, when would they start?
They would start approximately the 19th or 26th of this month.
Of this month, so it will be ready by, the report by
Correct.
the time we do budget?
Correct.
Okay. The only, and I just want to make this point, I'm sure the council knows this and our mayor, but to the audience and staff and certainly to our wonderful police department, this is a collaboration.
Yes.
We are not looking to tell the police force how to operate or how to do their job. We're just out there trying to see if we can work together and be a little bit more efficient.
And prioritize.
So- and
Maybe we're
prioritize,
putting more
right.
emphasis on one area, we
Yeah.
need another area, and it's, yeah.
So, but just remember collaboration, please.
Yes.
If I may say, obviously, the component of the community engagement that we can receive from this study, how we engage better the community when we have a situation, of course, that requires high collaboration between the community and the police force. Yesterday, I was attending the swearing-in ceremony for District Attorney Mike Estrin, and he brought up a private partner collaboration to keep youth out of gangs. So obviously, again, we want to repeat that the Riverside Sheriff has done a tremendous job. They keep doing a great job for our community. This is a proactive approach from the council to going out and do this study. I think it's very important. It's proactive. We're going to look at how better optimize this contract. It will benefit all.
Yeah, good.
With that, the matter is before the council.
And having said that, too, I want to give kudos to the current staff who's done an outstanding job in the last year of monitoring that police
Absolutely.
contract as well, too.
Yes, I echo that.
All right, well, Madam Mayor, then I'll make a motion to approve a professional service agreement with Matrix Consulting Group and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, we'll move on to our study session item, discussing the implementation of development action strategies for the La Quinta Village.
Honorable Mayor, council members, good afternoon, happy new year to you. As we want to take a few moments this afternoon to bring back to you, or at least to a few of you, the discussion regarding the village. As we discussed last fall, or was brought up last fall, development interest in our village and the properties that we own continues to grow. And we outlined a proposal to you back in October identifying some development strategies as well as focusing on a pedestrian scale emphasis within the village. We've now come forward to you this evening or this afternoon with some action strategies for your consideration that we'd like to proceed with implementing this year. The first strategy is the establishment of a village project action team, or a PAT. We've had some experience this last year or last 2 years with PATs, and they've worked very well internally in our ability to cross or combine departments together, working collectively on addressing a multitude of topics. This certainly would fit well with our interest here with the village. And we've identified 5 key staff members that would be a part of that: our city manager, the public works director, our associate planner, and one of our principal engineers and myself. We feel that that's the core team that would, again, administer and facilitate the various strategies. And we will be commencing our first meeting later this month. One of the key things that we also want to start off with is providing that opportunity for community engagement and feedback. And so we would like to proceed with consumer focus groups, outreaching and dialoguing with business owners, property owners, and residents in general as well within the community, and trying to get hopefully good feedback, good guidance and direction as to how they perceive the village today and what they'd like to see going forward. And we think that that feedback would be very relevant to some of the key topics and matters of interest today. Our schedule would identify an April-May period. If we can do that sooner, we certainly will. As soon as we're able to establish, again, the core objectives and feedback that we want to receive, we will begin scheduling those meetings. Another key strategy that was discussed last October was environmental clearance, looking at the completion of an environmental impact report, a project-level environmental impact report for addressing the build-out impacts of the village in its entirety. This would not only provide a financial benefit, but also a time benefit to future development projects. We've identified the opportunity to commence with that this July, and the process taking not more than 8 months to complete, and we've estimated the cost in around $150,000 to $170,000. Obviously, we'd be looking at a competitive process and in minimizing the cost to do that. But as identified in the report, there are several different studies that do need to be conducted. And by consolidating that effort at one time, there is an efficiency in expense overall. It also is a great opportunity to be able to represent that environmental clearance to future development interest for the village. We'd also like to focus on pedestrian and traffic calming improvements within the village. And as we discussed in October, looking at pedestrian linkages both east-west and north-south, as well as what could be done specifically on Calle Tampico and a couple blocks within that segment of Tampico where we hopefully can slow down traffic. That may be a combination of some design enhancements and modifications to the street, and also ensure that there's a stronger north-south pedestrian linkage with the existing Embassy Suites and some of the other developed and yet to be developed properties on the north side of Tampico. There is a need for some external assistance with that, and with the preliminary design component of it, and we've estimated that cost to be in the neighborhood of $15,000 to $20,000. We also have identified a strategy for public parking improvements. There is a need to carefully assess the village in looking at our existing properties that we own and maybe other opportunities for pocket public parking opportunities. We certainly have our existing village parking lot, but there are going to be areas within the village that encouraging different sizes of public parking lots can be advantageous and beneficial to getting people hopefully outside, being able to park their car and feel comfortable about walking throughout the village versus just focused on a specific business. We'd also want to take a revisit on the potential at some point in time in the future of a parking garage being established, as we've talked about in years past, on our existing public parking lot. We also identified a strategy to look at our village development standards. As we discussed back in October, the village commercial zoning district is the most liberal in allowing of all of our zoning districts in the city. However, that doesn't mean that there isn't a need to maybe take a revisit to those standards with regards to our parking requirements, possibly height of buildings, intensity of land use, et cetera. And we think now is the optimal time to just not rewrite everything, but just do that gut check, if you will, to make sure that we're in line with how we see the village developing going forward. And then finally, we would like to take a look further at the sale and acquisition of our city-owned properties in particular, possibly just doing a check to make sure that our appraisal of the properties are current, as well as possibly considering the option of strategically listing some of those properties for sale to see what type of feedback we might receive as a result. So we've provided you an overview of a schedule over the next 14 months and how we would proceed with that. A lot of this is internal work that we'll be conducting in-house, with the exception of the cost that I've identified for consultant assistance on 2 of those strategies. It's fairly ambitious. There's a lot of work there, but we believe that we can tackle that and be successful in doing so. So with that, we're prepared to proceed, and we are looking for any feedback, guidance, and direction you might be able to provide us this evening. And that would conclude my staff report, and certainly happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Les. Questions of staff? John, go ahead.
Okay, while he's coughing, I'll go ahead and do that. Les, under the timeline, it looks like it's going to take a little bit more than a year. Any way that we can speed that up? Is that because of notice requirements that we have to go through?
It really is a variety of steps that we would be looking at of those different strategies. The biggest time-consuming period would be the environmental impact report. That 8-month period, we may be able to shorten that a little bit, but it typically takes 6 to 8 months minimum. The bigger challenge with this is we have to do a build-out analysis in conjunction with the EIR, which typically a project comes in, it's already proposing build-out. So we have to create some assumptions that will take a little bit of additional time, but we feel that within 8 months, if not sooner, we can complete that. There's also multiple tasks that we'll be conducting, as I outlined, and so there's going to be a lot of those overlapping, but this schedule, certainly we feel comfortable with it. If we can get things done sooner, we're certainly going to do that. I would say this, the interest in the village is hot. I don't want to say it's white hot, but it's strong, and we want to take full advantage of that. We see that, and we want to move as quickly as we can.
Exactly, and that's my concern. So the faster that we can move, so we can kind of take advantage of that built-up and pent-up demand there, that we can do that as quickly as possible, rather than lose that if we get stuck somewhere in the sand.
And certainly we're trying to minimize cost and trying to do that as much as we can internally, while also balancing all of the additional development interest that's occurring throughout the community as well. So I may have been a little conservative, making sure that we have the time to dedicate to this, and again, minimizing having to rely on outsourcing some of these tasks to other parties.
Thank you.
Lee.
In the community outreach and in some of these areas, I don't see the planning commission being mentioned in here. Have you thought about doing like an ad hoc committee on the planning commission to get a couple of those members involved?
Not with our project action team, but we do envision the planning commission being a part of our outreach, and either as participants or maybe helping us with facilitation.
Okay. And I'd also suggest using some local professionals, engineering and architects throughout the valley. I mean, there's groups, MSA and others, that have worked with a number of cities throughout the valley for many, many, many years, and have quite a bit of experience working with cities, including La Quinta, to help us through this process. And the engineering groups out there that have gone through this process, whether good or bad, I think could bring a lot to the table to help our PAT, our group, understand how other cities do it and the good and the bad of those, and how it can improve our own function for La Quinta. But I just ask that you include the planning commission, and you do include bringing other professionals in the area, in the valley here, to help you on what's going on, especially in regards to the village development standards, whether it's specific plan issues or others. I think they can give us some insight on how to simplify some of these processes. I mean, we've talked before on some of the aspect of a specific plan and how to change the specific plan, and the cost to the developer for relatively simple changes can be rather high. And so if you would, I'd ask that, in this, bring in other professionals that deal with this, so you can understand what they go through, and maybe they can help you guys make it a little simpler.
We'll certainly make that outreach.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Robert?
So in regard to the focus group, can you walk me through a little bit how you envision that, how you envision to collect the data? Will you collect raw data? Would you have some analysis? How you envision that focus group?
Well, we did something similar during the general plan update process. We had actually a village focus group and a 111 focus group engagement. It would be probably similar to that, where we have hopefully a myriad of key questions that we would ask that would be, one group would be for the business owners versus property owners versus residents, and trying to, again, get a better understanding as to what the community residents are looking for in the village versus a property owner versus a business owner. So, and then hopefully by getting those three different entities to provide that feedback, we can consolidate that to get a better understanding of how the community views the village. We view it our way, but a business owner in the village may see it differently than a property owner, than a resident in the Cove, and we want to be able to extract that information and utilize that in our forward thinking for development activity in the village. So we would see that in again, a target of questions. It may be a questionnaire, but we want to have that. I would prefer to have a direct interaction and dialogue with someone versus a questionnaire being handed out. But we do want to make sure that we're targeting certain key questions that we want to gain feedback from those 3 different groups.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
And are we looking at seeking input from other destinations that have gone through a similar process and or businesses that were in an area that were early adopters of the geographic location, that then they also developed their own village concept and what that took and what it looks like?
We're certainly open to all ideas and options. So absolutely. There may be parties out there that have been successful in their process, and if we can outreach and dialogue with them, we will. And it's a great point and something we'll look into to see what we can learn from some of our other communities out there. It's always good to learn from especially the mistakes that others have made in front of you and not make those same mistakes again.
And Les, if you can remind me what the general plan costs were budgeted the last time we did the general, when we're looking at upwards to 200,000.
The general plan update cost was considerably more than that. We were said and done, we were well over $800,000, which is actually a bargain. Most cities it can be easily 7 digits plus to go through that process, but we were right around $800,000 for our total expense.
Christy, any other questions?
No, I just have a comment. I think going on what John had said, actually, that we do have some momentum, it appears, going now, and I think this is going to help solidify that. I always have concerns with community focus, only in terms of getting people out, and trying to suck the information out of them, if you will. Our history hasn't been the greatest on getting attendance at that. But I still think it's something we need to do. So,
and I see the village development standards definitely as a priority because obviously everything's simultaneous with your timeline, but that's the part that will enable, as developers are approaching us, that we're already working on streamlining or providing ranges or something that if we can make some impacts in that area first, will provide that continued momentum to get things approved if we're already kind of in that direction. Okay, so this is a study session, so there's no action required, but staff, do you feel you have the direction needed to continue this?
We do, yes, absolutely.
Guess that would be start tomorrow.
We're moving.
Let us know when you're done.
We're moving.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll
Thank
move
you.
on to reports.
I'm
Yes.
sorry. Before we leave this, I forgot to mention during my comments too, there's a piece of property on the outskirts of the village property. Is that something that we could include? I think it's the city of Quinta. It would be the south piece.
Our oddball piece.
Yes, we call it, we've termed it the Paisley piece.
The Paisley piece,
Yes,
yes.
and yes, we would definitely pull that into the discussion and review.
That would kind of square that off, I think.
Right.
Thank you.
The green mulch, not multicolored mulch property, yes. Okay. That's the one, yes. Okay. You good to go then. All right, we'll move on to reports and informational items. Let's go ahead and start with Lee. If you've got anything to report, given December?
Yes, ma'am. Went to the IID ECAC board meeting last night, and one of the things that was brought up is that with the increase in rates, that will bring an additional amount to the public benefit fund. And the public benefit fund includes, free power for low-income folks and other opportunities. And the 2014 budget for the free power for low-income families and medical and senior citizen total $6.3 million. That $6.3 million was over budget by $542,000. The increase in rates is going to add an additional $947,000 to these programs. So the 2015 budget for free power will be $6.7 million. The challenge I had was that, how would they go over budget by an amount so high as $540,000? They seem to think that's a small number and compared to $500 million in their budget for power. But, so, one of the part of this is a REAP for free power for the low-income families. And that budget is $5 million. And then they have the EEAP for if your energy is about to be cut off, then they're going to help you pay your power if you qualify. It's interesting because the budget is $1.2 million, and they're already forecasting that they're going to spend $2.1 million. So they're going into this with an overage of $1 million. And as I brought up before, the new increase in power rate is still only covering half of what it costs them to produce the power that they sell. So they are still severely under budget. They're projecting to continue going under budget on these free power programs. So it's a challenge to understand how they can budget a negative budget when they've already lost $140 million in the last 5 years and are still only charging half of what is needed to cover the cost to operate. So,
like a management problem.
yeah, it's a challenge in that regard, and I have a struggle understanding how you can program a deficit knowing it's a deficit, but at the same time, you are afraid to really put a rate at what the real cost is. I mean, the cost it's a municipal utility, so there's no profit motive. Just cover your cost. And then, of course, we all heard last night that the governor wants to create a 50% resource for green energy. And the challenge there is that understanding the cost to produce a 50% of renewable energy portfolio that they already can't afford at the 30%, well, they're at 25% right now. To go to 50%, they can't afford it. So, one, we are all going to pay for that increase, and we are all also going to pay for the free power for those folks that can't afford it. So, and evidently, too, a new California legislator from a city east of here was in full agreement with the governor that we should do 50%. It's just a challenge, from a CPA standpoint, that there is no financial stability in these decisions whatsoever. It just feels good, so they're going to do it, and without any degree of financial stability. So anyway, as frustrating as that is, IED is going to continue to lose money. Thank you. And that's all I have.
Robert.
I had no meeting. The CVAG Transportation Committee meeting was canceled, and so I will have something to report next time.
Okay. John?
No reports, Madam Mayor.
And Christie?
No reports.
And I have no reports either for the month of December. We start back up next month, actually. With that, we'll move on to departmental reports. City Manager, Alternative Energy Strategy for Civic Center Campus.
Yes, Madam Mayor, basically, we are putting this forward to get the will of the council. We have been looking at other energy strategies for the city based in part upon Councilmember Osborne's discussion of where IID is going and their rates. As you remember, last year we retrofitted our lighting system in a majority of City Hall, as well as the library and the soon-to-be open wellness center. We've changed out HVAC systems in order to make them more efficient, and now we'd like to look at the costs and benefits of photovoltaic cells and power generation. What we're suggesting here is nothing that would commit the city to that. Instead, exploring the opportunities, and given the funding available from various sources, we can do initially an audit of our facilities, being here at City Hall, as well as the Wellness Center and the library, and come back with options for the council to consider at a future date. And so before we would embark on that process to go to the next steps, we wanted to prepare this report, get a sense of where you all sat, and then we'd move forward accordingly.
So this is the wait list of potentially 2 years that we're talking about.
Correct.
Just throwing our name in the hat. It doesn't cost us anything.
Costs us nothing.
Right. Agree?
One comment there is that in regards to these solar programs, currently the Internal Revenue Service has a tax credit of 30% of that cost. Now, obviously, the city of La Quinta doesn't need a 30% tax credit, but if it's structured properly, we could have someone else pay for it and we lease it, and we can reduce our costs because somebody else is taking advantage of that 30% credit. That 30% credit is through the end of 2016. So whether that'll continue, we don't know.
Is that specific to solar versus PV?
Yeah, strictly solar.
Okay.
So, you know, if this is 2 years away, we'll probably, well, Lord knows what Washington's going to do, but we may lose that opportunity to use that 30% credit for somebody else to come in and do it, and then we lease it or, you know, buy it from them. But
the initial assessment would take probably 90 days, 90 to 120 days at the most. So we'd be looking at this as part of our budgeting program if it would prove to be positive or feasible.
Okay.
So we're comfortable with the non-binding resolution for Frank to move forward with this?
100%.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, mayor and council members' items, anything to report?
I just have one thing to, of note, and probably council's aware of this, but Tom Flavin has retired.
Yes,
As
saw that
CEO
today.
of CVAP. And so I guess they'll have a search committee looking for a new, Joe was the interim. And I would hope that in this search, and they're looking for someone to take over this job, they're more inclusive of the community this time, they being the CVEP board, than they were last time when Tom came without a contract. Nobody knew he was here. There was no big splash. So since we've made so many steps forward, I would hope that they would be a little bit more inclusive of us and of the rest of the valley, all the people who participate.
What electeds are on the executive committee at this time, are there?
Elaine Holmes, Jan Harnett.
Right, that's it.
That could be something we communicate as
I think so.
board members?
Yes.
It's an opportunity going
I
forward.
think that would be a good idea.
And Joe does a great job on his iHub, and
He does.
Yeah.
to do an interim, that would be fine.
Awarded.
Okay, that was it.
I just want to commend staff on the open house back on December 16th. Outstanding job in coordinating it, promoting it, and just such positive feedback from the community on feeling like City Hall is welcoming again, and it was just a festive occasion. Great way to start our new council together, and we do have a workshop this Saturday from 12 to 4 being held at the La Quinta Museum.
Yes.
And it's an opportunity for us to look at 2014, set priorities 2015. It is an open meeting, and the public is invited to attend and participate and share their thoughts on what we're doing to keep that energy going in La Quinta.
Just a comment on your, back to the open house, and I was talking with Frank about this yesterday. One thing that I noticed was not only was it well attended, but there were so many new faces.
A lot of new faces.
Absolutely, and I'm not sure what we've done to to make that
new
happen,
day.
but let's keep it going.
Keep it going.
It was
That's right.
good, it was great.
Hopefully get good turnout on Saturday and get some public out there on
Yes,
Saturday workshop.
absolutely.
Casual on Saturday, so no need to dress up out there.
No time? Madam Mayor, one item if I could, please. In regards to the municipal skate parks that we have, both the skate park we have on Adams Street off of Westward Ho in North La Quinta and the one we have down here in the Cove, both of them are in dire need of repair. And I shouldn't say dire, but they're both in need of upkeep and maintenance. And one of the things I would ask staff to consider is the fee that was imposed on our families for their kids that have sports in the park. Now it's, I believe, $10 per child per sport that they have to pay. And last I heard, that's around $16,000-ish of revenue. Perhaps that can be used, that can be earmarked to be reinvested back into these facilities for these kids. I mean, our maintenance for the parks, I want to say, is well over $1 million. So that small amount doesn't really add much from a maintenance standpoint for the parks. But if that money comes from those kids, let's give it back to those kids in maintaining those facilities with these skate parks. And other cities have these amazing skate parks and scooter parks where the kids will pay an annual fee, some $100. There are some cities that parents are charged $400 for a camp during the summer for some of these skate and scooter parks. And they have quite a bit to them, obviously. And so I think we have the kids that need it and the families that need it, the families that need a safe place for their kids to play. You know, as parents, it's not as easy as it was when we were young to just be gone the whole day. You know, there's too many crazy things that go on. And potentially, if we charge a fee for these kids to use a skate park, that fee can then be used to support personnel at those parks to make sure that they're doing properly. You know, I've seen some of the things going on at these skate parks that shouldn't be going on by any stretch, you know, whether it be drugs or other issues at these skate parks. And it'd be nice to have someone there to maintain, you know, the integrity of these places and these kids. But if that cost can be covered by by some entrance fee, that would maintain the facility, maintain a staff position, and bring it up to where it could be. And I mean, both facilities really need some help. You see more bicycles than anything in the one up at Adams. The type of material is so slick that it cannot be used much from a scooter or skateboard. So I would just ask if staff can take a look at that, please. And again, maybe we can earmark those funds that is paid, the fee paid by the kids for the sports use, to reinvest back into the facilities for these kids.
Well,
That's what's happening now. Actually,
Right.
that money goes back into the fund that does maintain the park, the sports fields. And that was part of the,
Yes, please, Edie, come up.
Thank you, Edie.
That's the whole intent of charging the fee.
in our discussions with the sports associations, that was one of the things that we talked to them about. They pay currently about 10%, 10 or 11% of the total cost of those sports fields.
Right.
So right now, they're paying a very small percentage to help us maintain the condition of those fields. But they do have some skin in the game, and they are contributing to that. And that seems to be working, and we have a good relationship with those sports associations. We're not happy with the condition of our skate parks either. We want to take a look at, particularly Fritz Burns.
Yes, it was pretty bad. I took a walk here yesterday.
To be truthful, having a skate park right next to tennis courts by design probably isn't the best scenario anyway. We want to take a look at some options too and take some things to the commission. We have looked at that issue of addressing fees to facilitate staffing there, and the cost to maintain staffing far outweigh what we would be able to charge youth. But we can take a look at that.
Our parks aren't anything that would draw people to would draw kids to La Quinta. I mean, if we update these parks with some of the new stuff going on with these ramps and these soft pads that kids jump onto so they don't hurt themselves, I mean, there will be kids from all over the valley coming to our parks if we can bring them up to the standards out there in the industry.
We could certainly take a look at that.
That would do quite a bit.
You bet. And maybe we ought to look at where they are, too. Where they are, how they work, the design of them, particularly at Fritz Burns, even more than the La Quinta Park, but La Quinta Park as well. And maybe even look at repair and replacement funds for some of that, too.
Because I've got to say, I mean, I'm here, my grandson, he's just turned 14. They will drive him over an hour to a specific park to use it. And so if we bring it up to where it could be, we'll attract kids from all over the valley. From Palm Springs to Coachella will come out here and gladly pay if we have the facilities that are out there these days. And I've seen these parents drive their kids for an hour to specific parks because they have them.
I think a good example of that, Palm Springs put quite a bit of money into a recent skate park, well over $1 million. We can look into that. That was something that they really, really put attention to bring
when my grandson comes here to town, they go to Palm Springs.
It's that kind of money that we're talking about to bring it up to that higher level and be able to charge for it. But we can certainly take a look at it.
I think it's definitely, if it's on your radar, Edie, and the commission has opportunities to review that.
Sure.
That'd be great.
We can take a look.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anything else on mayor and council member items? Okay, with that, we are going to move on to our public hearings. We have two this evening. The first is to adopt resolutions to approve a mitigated negative declaration of environmental impact and associated mitigation monitoring program for environmental assessment, a general plan amendment, specific plan amendment, site development permit and tentative tract map, and introduce an ordinance to change the zoning designation from medium-high-density residential to low-density residential, hopefully with the introduction will allow everybody to get in place, to allow the development of 82 single-family homes on 20.8 acres of land located at the northwest corner of Jefferson Street and Avenue 52. With that, we'll start with the staff reports.
Your Honor, Council, Contract Planner Nicole Chris will be providing the staff report for this matter.
Hello, Nicole.
Madam Mayor, members of council, as indicated by the mayor, the first item before you this evening is a combination of several applications, including a general plan amendment of change of zone, an amendment to an existing specific plan, a site development permit, and a tentative tract map, as well as CEQA compliance. The proposed project you may be familiar with as the Watermark project. It's located at the northwest corner of Jefferson Street and Avenue 52, and was previously approved for 250 condominium units that were partially built. There are several podium parking structures on the site, as well as one completed building. All of those are proposed for demolition with this project, and a new project entirely would be constructed. The developer does propose to keep the existing entry gate that will remain the project access, the existing perimeter wall, and the existing retention basin, which is located at the southwestern portion of the property. Excuse me. The property is currently designated medium-high density residential, both in its general plan designation and its zoning, and requires a change to low-density residential to comply. This is the site plan for the property, and I'll be referring, thank you very much, I'll be referring back to that periodically in my staff report. The items that are required in addition to the general plan and zone change are a specific plan amendment of an existing specific plan that is in essence a complete redo of the specific plan. Obviously, there is a significant difference between 250 condominiums and 82 single-family units. And so the specific plan is being amended to accommodate the single-family residential units. The site development permit, as you're familiar with, is the process, the entitlement process through which we look at site planning, architecture, and landscaping, and that is being proposed this evening for the project as a whole. And then finally, the tentative tract map, which will subdivide the existing parcels into single-family lots as well as lots for streets, the common area recreation, and retention basins. The proposed homes range from 2,300 to 2,500 square feet on lots that are mostly 6,000 to 7,000 square feet and range as high as 10,000 square feet. Part of the purpose of the specific plan is to allow for variations in our low-density residential standards, and in this case, the variation reduces the size of the lots from the 7,200 square foot minimum that we would normally allow in low-density residential to the 6,000 square foot minimum. There is a central loop street, as shown on the site plan, that accesses the entire project. The homes that are located along the northern boundary of the site are sometimes called motor court homes. They're accessed by driveways or alleys rather than by the principal street. The rest of the homes are accessed from the loop street that goes around the project. At the center of the project, opposite the entry, is a common area that's located, that is proposed on approximately 3/4 of an acre. That will include a pool building, picnic areas, and other common area amenities for the residents. There are pedestrian paseos that are located, that radiate from the common area behind the homes that are in the center of the project, and provide pedestrian access to the common areas as well. And a pedestrian trail is proposed around the edge of the retention basin, so there will be interior walking opportunities for the residents. Finally, the developer proposes an access point to the citrus for golf carts at the northeastern corner of the property. When we prepared our staff report, that agreement had not been reached, but I know that the developer has been in contact with the Citrus Homeowners Association to conclude that agreement. The elevations are provided next. The architecture is proposed to be in a Spanish style. The homes are 16 to 19 feet in height. 2 out of the 3 models are single-family or single-story models. There is one model that is that has a 2-story component. The 2-story component does not, however, raise the height of the overall homes. It's tucked in to the architecture of the homes. The Planning Commission and Architectural and Landscape Review Board both looked at the architecture. The ALRB recommended an expanded color palette, which is incorporated in the conditions of approval. The Planning Commission recommended the addition of a minimum of 18 inches of overhang on the roof line to provide some architectural interest, and also recommended enhancements to the architecture on the homes on the north side adjacent to the citrus. You have a memorandum in front of you. We had contact with Mr. Kroll, who lives at the Citrus, who spoke at the Planning Commission, who had requested that both the northern and western boundary homes be single-story and have the architectural enhancements incorporated. We coordinated with the developers team, and they have agreed to the amendment of the conditions, and those amendments are provided to you in the memorandum that was provided at each seat this evening.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Okay. Because I have a lot of questions, and I don't want to
Yeah,
lose
we
this
might as well
one.
get started while we're going.
Yeah. Architectural enhancements, what are they?
The Planning Commission was not specific, neither was the ALRB. The applicant may be able to give you some idea of what they have in mind. What staff has in mind is addition of tile or exterior finishes or moldings that would improve particularly the side and rear elevations, which are very plain in the models that have been provided to us. And that would be provided a director's review and director's approval when the building plans are submitted.
Okay, I just don't want to lose sight of it. Thank you.
The landscaping palette that's proposed is a standard drought-tolerant landscaping that will be required to comply with our drought-tolerant landscaping requirements. There are mesquites and palo verdes as part of the landscaping palette. As is common with most single-family homes, the front yards and common areas will be landscaped. The rear yards are generally left up to the homeowners to do individual landscaping on their rear yards. And finally, the tentative tract map, which is shown on the screen now, is the legal subdivision of the land so that the lots can be sold. Because this is a gated community, there will be a homeowners association, and common areas will be the responsibility of a homeowners association. The Public Works Department has reviewed the map and the site development permit and provided conditions of approval for you this evening. The Planning Commission considered the item at their meeting of December 9th, and as mentioned earlier, they recommended architectural improvements to the project to include the north side of the citrus, and we are proposing this evening that the north and west sides of the property adjacent to the citrus for both the single-story homes and the architectural enhancements. The recommendation of the Planning Commission for you this evening is the adoption of the project, including the adoption of a mitigated negative declaration. The project was reviewed under CEQA, and impacts were found to be mitigable, and all impacts have been reduced to a less than significant level with the imposition of mitigation measures. There is also a resolution for the adoption of the general plan amendment, an ordinance for the zone change, and resolutions for the specific plan amendment, the site development permit, and the tentative track map. And that concludes my staff report, and I would be glad to answer your questions.
Absolutely. Christy, do you want to start?
Sure. What other developments do we have in the city of La Quinta that we have made exceptions with under the specific plan guidelines in terms of setbacks, distance between the houses, here being 10 feet? I hate that. I hate it.
That narrow of a distance is rare, but there are a handful of, just going by memory, of projects that, residential projects that have the ability for that to occur within the community, within the city.
Do we have anything built that is that way? Would this be the first to be built?
Yeah, I would think the one that does come to mind is Cordonese.
Yeah.
Kind of catty corner. They're quite close. There may be a few others. The Watercolors project is another one that we have that has a similar situation where they're quite close in areas.
Are they this close?
I believe at Watercolors they are, and I'm pretty sure at Cordonese they get to that
Right.
distance as well.
Okay. In the, where the stacked, whatever you want to call them, houses are, I noticed that there's a parking stall, if you want to go, whoa, right here in the very top in the north. Is that the parking for, is that extra parking, or what's the purpose of that?
There is guest parking provided in those areas, ma'am, but it's in addition to the garages for each property.
Okay, so just a simple question. If you had guests over in this area where they're sharing a driveway, where would the guest parking be?
Well, on those three alley access points, you would either use the guest parking at the end, the north end, as you pointed out, those parking spaces, or on the street itself. They would not be able to park on the alley itself, so they would use the parking in front of the home, if those spaces were available, the two parking spaces at the north end of the alley, and they could also then park out on the private street, the loop street as well.
Okay.
Limited guest list on the party. Or carpooling options.
Very small party with lots of carpooling options. And I assume that these little streets that are in the alley there meet all the requirements for emergency vehicles, et cetera?
Yes.
Okay. Will there be any signs to indicate that folks are not supposed to park along there of any sort, do you know?
The fire department will surely require red curbing for the
All right.
alleys.
Okay.
We do have a similar, we mentioned Watermark earlier. There are similar situations like this that exist within the Watermark Villas project where they are Watercolors, excuse me, I got it mixed up there. We're in Watermark Villas. On the Watercolors project where it is red curbed and they are a narrow alley type access like this. So it is in existence elsewhere in the community.
Okay. In terms of, in this report, I think that somewhere I remember them saying that this project itself is going to be in line with other projects like Citrus and what was the other, Mountain View? No, in terms of the density that's here and how these are all shotgun homes put along here, that's not a comparison between the Citrus and Mountain View, thank you, but more like maybe Courtenay's.
Yeah, I don't think that was in our words, but yeah,
No, but it
it's
was in the
certainly,
report here
it's
somewhere.
certainly not, we would not view it as consistent from the
Right.
standpoint of site design, lot size. It is not. It's
So just an overall comment here. I'm anxious to see something on this property, but I'm not anxious to see something that's just so compact where it just looks like the homes are all shoved in together, and I don't like the 10 feet between homes. I just don't think that's necessary. I think we can pull a couple of these out and give it more space. That's all I have for now.
Okay. Other questions? Robert? Sure.
Regarding the street issues and the parking that were brought up, the street width, I mean, the main street that goes around the entire project and one piece that goes through, 130, what's the width of that street? I couldn't find, I saw it in here, but I couldn't find.
It's 37.
Is it 30?
Talking about the loop.
Yeah, I mean, does that give parking space enough for parking on both sides of the street? One's yes, one's no.
On the second page of your packet, sir, the track map in the 11 by 17 packet, there are street sections which I can see very well with a magnifying glass and not so well at this scale.
So 36 on the cut through.
Oh, is that where?
And it looks like 36 on the, well, it says 18 and 18.
37, yeah, 36 from curb to curb. So that was my question too. I mean, are those streets wide enough for parking on both sides?
At 36 feet, yes, sir.
Okay. And the changes that have been asked for, the changes that have been asked for by the Planning Commission, the changes that have been asked for by residents of Citrus, thank you. I mean, all of these changes, we have nothing as far as what that's going to look like. We have nothing to see the 18-inch overhang on the roof. What does that mean? As an accountant, I have no idea what that means. But there's been a lot of changes that have been requested, and I certainly appreciate the developer, giving us those changes or acknowledging those changes. But I have nothing here that recognizes that.
The additional color palette is provided in your packet, sir. There's a 2-page color and materials sheet that was provided to us that shows the expanded color palette. The renderings have not been amended to show the 18-inch eave or additional enhancements.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm concerned about the enhancements as well.
As a rule, 1.5 foot of overhang will provide some extension of the roof line that is noticeable, as opposed to a roof that ends pretty much right at the wall face.
Yeah, I was concerned with some of the minimalization in the design of these homes, and I'm concerned as well about it being so tight. I'm concerned about these setbacks of only 10 to 5 feet setbacks, single-family condominiums, really. But and then you mentioned watercolors. I mean, watercolors is a
Senior project.
yeah, senior project. I want to be careful, but yeah, senior project. So it's not going to be in the same aspect of this. And the original design with watercolors, when it first came to us, was more from a tourism standpoint. I mean, it's temporary place to stay while you come down and play golf or whatever, versus homes that someone will live in from a permanent standpoint. So, I mean, yes, this is much less dense. I want to say that this is the only project I have ever seen that came up with a full 4 units to an acre. I mean, everything else has been 3 or less in this type of zoning. I mean, they really did a good job fitting in 4 units to an acre. The pool, how big is that pool? Do we have any idea how big that pool is? I mean,
I
for
don't know the dimensions.
82 units, I was kind of curious how big that pool
The
is.
applicant may be able to
Okay,
answer that
I'll ask
question.
that.
I do not know the dimensions.
Impacts, roof overhangs. We'll talk about the enhanced architecture, the design, numerous changes. That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Okay, let's go to Robert.
My question has to do with what is the buyer profile of this, one of these homes? And what market research do we have behind the decisions that were made here?
We were not provided with market data, sir. The applicant did indicate that the homes are expected to sell in the $650,000 range. I believe that's indicated in the staff report. The applicant may be able to address any market analysis that they have done for the project. We do not require it as part of our application process.
Bring them up soon. Other questions of staff?
That's it, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
John, questions of staff before we bring it back?
Several, and I share some of the same concerns as Councilmember Franklin as well, too, regarding the tightness, the size of the space in between the two homes as well, too. Trash pickup as well, too, on those homes. Is this going to be on-street trash pickup? Is it going to be residential backyard pickup? Do we know?
I would imagine that particularly for the motor court lots, that they'll have to, they will likely need to wheel out to the street.
Okay.
3 houses down. 3 houses down.
Yes, ma'am. Or 2 houses down.
2 houses down.
2 or 3 houses down.
Okay.
Oh, they'll have to bring it all the way up to the main street.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Also, architectural enhancements has been mentioned. I don't see a right-out de-acceleration lane or acceleration lane on Jefferson Street.
The access on Jefferson, sir, is emergency access only.
Okay.
Yeah, they're sticking at 52.
And what about a acceleration lane on Avenue 52?
There is a deceleration lane that exists there now.
Got it.
What has been established here with regards to improvements is in line with exactly what was approved for Watermark Villas, the previous project. So there are some outstanding striping and other miscellaneous conditions that they have to adhere to. I don't believe that there is an acceleration lane identified, but there is a deceleration lane.
Okay, thanks. And the other concern I have, too, is that we just got this memo here tonight. I haven't had a chance to go back and look at both conditions and how they're stated, and what the new conditions as proposed are as well, too, and the fact that they were kind of from a resident that came, although I certainly agree with residents having their input, but being able to change conditions without a planning commission being able to look at some of these conditions, even though the applicant did agree to the changes, that concerns me as well, too.
The planning commission did hear from Mr. Kroll. He spoke at the planning commission meeting. He brought up both north and western boundaries. There was not substantial discussion from the planning commission regarding adjacency north and west. Frankly, it may have been an omission of words, because the planning commission did understand the concern, and I think would agree with the addition of the western boundary. They were not, I do not believe they were trying to exclude the western boundary.
Okay, no, and I totally agree with that, too. I think that it's correct, but just the process, I think, concerned me a little bit.
Any other questions?
Not for
Okay,
staff.
Okay, so at this time, this is a public hearing. We will open the public hearing and first have an opportunity for the applicant to come up and potentially readdress some of the questions of council that staff was not able to answer. We also have a request to speak from Mr. Robert Kroll. We'll have an opportunity to hear from him as well. If you could introduce yourself by giving us your name and address for the record, please.
Great. My name is Monica Woltredas. Our business address is 1800 East Imperial Highway, Brea, California. I do represent the applicant, These Are Homes. Good evening, everyone. There are a handful of questions that are on the table, and I do have my professional consultants here to address each of the issues that have been that has surfaced this evening. The first one that we talked about was definitely architecture enhancements, and I do have my architect here. Would like to have him come up and introduce himself and talk about our inspiration and what the characteristics of the product that we are proposing. Also to get into what his experience is with the city of La Quinta, because he has designed a handful of communities here, and he'll be able to get into those specifics in regard to separation, because I know that there was a comment in regard to the 10-foot separations, and so it's something that he has designed in the past. And also he will be able to talk about our other enhancements that we're offering and today, not only what through the review board and through planning commission, but also what we just have presented, so similar to a features list of what we're offering. So if I may introduce.
Thank you, Mike.
Good evening, Vance Graham with Basseni and Lagoni Architects out of Newport Beach. As Monica suggested, I can answer some of the questions that the members may have. With regard to the distance between the buildings, 10 feet is fairly common for what we do throughout the U.S., and not that that should be what the standard is here, but because it's a single-story product predominantly, we feel like the massing represented between the buildings is acceptable, and we did take that into consideration, especially when we added the second-story option. Those second-story options are contained within the roofs because we wanted to maintain that single-story feel. So we wanted to consider that for sure, but we feel like the distance between the units is very common, especially for this density. 4 units to the acre is fairly low for what we deal with in this type of housing. With regard to the additional detailing, we do have sets prepared, at least I have one here, that finally does incorporate the additional detailing that was added. I will mention that one of the things we tried to do initially was, and I'm a little bit biased here because I really love the resort here in La Quinta, and that really sets the precedent from an architectural standpoint, and the La Quinta Resort is a very good example of what we call sort of a quiet architecture. The detailing is rather simple. The landscape palette is a very important part of the language of what's built, and I hope that that doesn't get lost in what the presentation materials that were presented, because we do think that's an important part of the overall collage of what's created within the community. It's not just the house, it's not just the one house, it's a chessboard of pieces, and what sort of knits those together is the landscape. As you find on the grounds of the resort, the landscape is a really key player in the way that, you know, sort of theater comes together. So we're trying to pay homage to that, and that's one of the reasons why the architecture is rather quiet. But the amount of detailing that was requested to be added to the homes we felt was appropriate. So we've added wrought iron detailing, we've added decorative tile detailing. We've lengthened the overhangs on 2 of the styles because we felt like it was appropriate. On one of them, where there's a molded eave, it's almost like a crown molding under the eave, it felt honestly bizarre to extend it another 6 inches. We looked at it and really didn't feel that it added anything aesthetically. So with the addition of the 18-inch overhangs on the other 2 styles, which adds a tremendous amount of shadow line, which we do think is beneficial, it's going to add a level of variety in having not only a different eave style, but a different length. So those are some of the details that we've added. I also wanted to mention that it's very unusual for this price of a home for all of the walls to be 2x6 exterior, and we did that principally to add a level of recess to the windows. So the way it's detailed is there's 2x6 walls and then it steps down to a 2x4 wall that's a jamb for the windows. So it adds an additional shadow line that, again, sort of pays homage to not only the resort, but the style, the sort of Mediterranean or Spanish style of architecture. Additionally, what we've done is in key locations where we felt like we may have blank walls that are adjacent to open space, we've added detailing like shutter details that allow a pop of color and so forth. And I felt from a massing standpoint, the agreement to take this two-story option off the western edge was a nice additional concession that the developer had made, and I felt like was appropriate, to be perfectly honest. So the way, being familiar with the citrus as I am, I feel like this is a really nice addition to the community when you think of it from a master planning standpoint, so that you have different levels of densities and different opportunities for different buyers to be in the community. I will say the original already approved project, the three-story towns, felt very out of place to me from a planning and architectural standpoint. So this feels like a good sort of step back on the density and still providing something that's a little more affordable than what you might find within the citrus proper. So it's providing a nice amount of diversity in terms of not only price point, but density. So if you have any other questions about detailing and so forth, I'm happy to answer.
Full question again, John?
Sure.
No, go ahead.
The pool that's in there, how big is that pool?
I can't answer that, I apologize.
It's
Somebody can.
30 by 50.
30 by 50? Okay, thank you.
And speaking of pools, is there any space available on, I know that there's maybe a handful of lots where you might be able to get a pool. What about some of the other smaller lots?
Some of the smaller lots, you know, you're not going to see a high demand for pools here, and the idea of small spas, especially the ability now that they're getting smart about their marketing, where you can use a spa in the summer as well with the heat turned down. And so that tends to be more of an appropriate use on the smaller lots.
Do we have a tract of homes that have no pools as options with a single community pool besides the affordable housing?
That have no pools at all? I'm drawing a blank at any of them that have absolutely no pools. We have a lot of them with smaller lots with community pools, but there still are options for either a small pool to be put in or a spa to be put in, but I can't think of one project top of my head that doesn't have any pools at all on any of the private lots.
And then when you do look at the requirements that we have in terms of setback and what size spa even would be eligible in some of these lots?
As was mentioned, there are a handful of lots that are definitely of a size to get a standard pool in them, especially the ones on the radius of the
corners, right?
Of the perimeter road. But yeah, there are quite a few of the interior ones that it would be a bit of a challenge to meet the standard 3-foot setback. It'd probably be more of a spool or a small spa, which aren't uncommon either. There are quite a few homes that have those instead of a full-size pool, just a small area to dip in to cool down, if you will.
Other questions of the architect? The applicant?
If I can, I guess one of the things that Christy brought up and kind of bothers me is the very plainness of all the units. They're just all lined up. How do you, you talked about landscaping, kind of breaking that up.
Yeah.
So maybe we can see some of that.
If I could approach the dais, we have...
Or can we put it up on the camera, Linda?
Or, yeah, if there's an overhead.
Camera working?
Work?
No. So we can start with Susan, I guess, and work its way down. Or you can bring it up, we can share.
We did some three-dimensional perspective renderings to show, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot one. Or two. Obviously, sometimes the two-dimensional renderings don't do the housing justice. They don't represent the true nature of how the units sit. And the renderings you see before you are actually three-dimensional models that we built on the lots as they sit. We've landscaped them, obviously in an artistic fashion, but it does show full maturity, but it's representative of the design that's there. And we wanted to do that to show not only how truly sort of there's a lot of movement and in and outs and the massing of the buildings, but how important we feel the landscape is to the project. One thing I will mention too, these renderings reflect the latest changes that were requested by Commission.
So do you have those architectural enhancements?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what these are? These are the front of the homes.
Reflect them. We have updated
Or the
design
back of the
packages.
homes.
I'm sorry?
I mean, the architectural enhancements are going to be in the back of the home.
We've done them all the way around, actually. So, yeah, we have another updated set that has it on the rear that shows the detailing, which we can bring up as well. Which is this number of what?
Yeah, I mean, all the front shots are already, we don't have anything in the back showing your enhanced architecture.
Enhancements added to the front, sides, and rears.
This is,
Oh.
they've added the eaves.
Oh, I got you, okay.
They've added.
So from the back,
You'll notice that there's some half clay pipe vent detailing. There's a little bit of metal added on the front, some decorative detailing added to the gables.
rear windows. I don't know. Can you help me? What, this
It's
being
hard to have a
a shot
before
of
and
your
after.
rear of the home,
Yeah.
what are the architectural enhancements on the rear of this home? I'm sorry?
At this point.
I thought you said you have those on this.
Yes.
All right, what are they?
The vent detail that was added to the rear and the lengthened eaves.
Oh, the vent at the top,
Mm-hmm.
and adding the 18-inch on the eaves.
Yeah, then the stronger color palette that we've added where the trim has been highlighted a bit more than it was before. What we didn't want to do was just add detail for detail's sake and end up having something that looks a little contrived. We're trying to stay within the context.
Madam Mayor, if I can.
Please leave.
Thank you.
Give it a shot.
One of my concerns is that, I mean, this project is right across the street from Silver Rock. Silver Rock is the 5-star resort for the entire Coachella Valley. So this is an extremely important project to have across the street from Silver Rock. And I don't know that you provide the enhancements that we would like to have across the street from Silver Rock. That's my concern, that I don't see a 5-star, not that you're gonna build a 5-star resort here on Watermark, however much as we'd like you to do that, but that, you know, understanding what's gonna be across the street, we wanna have something at Watermark commensurate with Silver Rock and what we're gonna be doing there at Silver Rock. And my struggle is, I don't see that here. I see nice homes, but to be commensurate with a 5-star hotel across the street, that's where I struggle with. And the homes that are gonna be out there at Silver Rock. Now, the price structure you mentioned is $650,000. Part of my concern there too is that all the changes that you guys have done, thank you very much. I appreciate your openness to make the changes that have been asked for, whether it be from our planning commission or the residents at Citrus Course. But are we at a minimal type design? I mean, that's why I asked how big the pool is. I want to know how big the pool is. Is it representative of a large area pool, or is it small? And it's no way to tell here. So I wanted to make sure it's. I mean, I don't normally ask this question. Is it representative of a large pool for a community that size that you're proposing? And evidently it is. But I don't know that this is representative of that. And so I took it on myself to do a little research on Beazer Homes, and was very challenged by what I saw online about Beazer Homes and the challenges you guys have out there and the challenges you've had from a financial standpoint. But I'm just concerned that, though you say $650,000, is it really going to be a home of that type? That's my concern. And I like to see some of these things that you've got out here and the changes you've made with that 18-inch overhang and the architectural enhancements, as you stated. But I am just challenged to have something of this type and with these setbacks and things like that across the street from Silver Rock. I don't know that it's the best thing for La Quinta and for Silver Rock. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, I certainly,
comment?
sure, I hear what is being voiced this evening. The price range was, the market's going to drive the price range, and, you know, we're going to be mindful to that. In regard to our architecture, it is single-story. It's intended to be tucked behind what is going to be the complementary element, which is our landscaping and our entryway. The landscaping, I have our landscape architect here to also answer any questions that you may have. I'd like him to talk a little bit about what we are proposing, because like my architect has communicated, is that they are pieced together and they complement each other. And the house may be single stories and for that specific reason, but the landscape that we have selected, their mature planting was complemented by the Architect Landscape Review Board, and we're hoping that that is the element that is the focal point opposed to the homes. So if I may.
Yes, specifically regarding the front yard, the landscape illustrative drawings that
Your
were
name,
just,
please?
oh, I'm sorry, David No.
David, thank you.
And do you need my address? 41877 Enterprise Circle North, Temecula, California, 92590.
Thank you.
And as I was started to say, the front yard landscaping that you see on those illustrative drawings, I took a lot of pride in that normally the architect places the trees, does those kind of in their own, interpretation. And this, our office collaborated with them in that model. We built a 3D model and then placed those trees so that we could complement the architecture, find places where there were gaps and fill those gaps. We're also concentrated on developing a plant palette that was very desert, very much using boulders, cobble, desert plant material, using color, bougainvillea, and really trying to create a, like Vance had mentioned, something that was akin to or something very close to the citrus, that marriage of landscape and architecture. As far as the rest of the project, date palms were very important to this area historically. So we placed, I believe, over 60 palms, date palms, just on the perimeter, at the entry and at the corner. And then at the rec center, again, if you look at that, what we tried to do there actually is create a resort feel. We have cabanas there within the deck area. Again, trying to make this feel like a resort. Then we have the open space on both sides of the rec area, barbecue areas, lots of seating, sunbathing, and of course the pool. And a 30 by 50 pool is very much a resort style pool. We've added 36-inch box Palo Verde trees and mesquite trees throughout the project. And in fact, I wrote here, the previously approved project had 21 36-inch box trees, and we had a total of, I'm sorry, here we have 96 36-inch box trees, and that includes some of the palms within the project too.
Other questions? Robert, you want to go back to you?
Yeah, I'd like to go back again. We talked about the market. Of course, it's dictated by the market. So my question, which I asked when staff was presenting to prompt you, is about the buyer profile. Who's buying?
We are anticipating family. These are single-family homes or the active adult. These are single-story homes again, but that is what our anticipated buyer is.
In the market right now, it sustains smaller lot, smaller homes for family. Is that what your market research tells you?
That is what our market research tells us. Now, what the actual market is, I think that's unknown. This is what we are anticipating. This is what we've designed towards.
If I can make a comment.
Sure.
Being across the street from Silver Rock with a lower profile of the single-family home versus what we had before is certainly an advantage.
Yes.
From my point of view. Although to the comment of Councilmember Peña about the memo that we received this afternoon, while you and I were getting ready for this meeting, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but Commissioner Fitzpatrick specifically said it has to be, the two-story has to be in the center, cannot be on the perimeter. So it was that made clear during the Planning Commission meeting.
That's correct, sir.
Okay.
He also indicated he did not want to see two-story at the entry points. So
That would be
she.
Correct.
She.
Well, actually, the
Yes.
two, yeah. The two-story, I believe, was by Commissioner Bettencourt
Yeah.
at the entrance. Okay.
Well, we do have a couple requests to speak, so at this time, if we don't have any other questions for the applicants, thank you very much.
One quick question.
Yes?
Can you point to a project that you've developed that is currently operating to this style?
To this style, we have a project in the Palm Spring area. It's called, it's in the Esena Master Plan. Currently, it's under construction. Our models are at a framing stage. So that is our only other product that we would be able to point you towards.
Okay, thanks.
One question, ma'am,
Yes,
if I can.
okay, one more.
Have you talked to the Citrus Course about membership? Will these residents have available membership to the Citrus Course?
Yes, we are, I would say 98% close to having a signed contract with the Citrus Club. And this agreement would provide access to their amenities, to golf. So it would, again, provide these buyers with that type of luxury. And we have reached out to the Citrus Club, the Homeowner Association. I do have letter of support from both of them if you'd like a copy. Would you like a copy?
No, we're going to hear from them
Okay.
shortly.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Monica, thank you.
Thank
Vance
you.
and David, appreciate that. We may be calling you back up. All right, I do have a request to speak. It is a public hearing, and let's go ahead and start with Robert Kroll. He's been very patient. Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. My name is Robert Kroll, and I am a resident of the Citrus at 79890 Citrus. My home is located on the northerly border with this project. I have been there at that location for the past 13 years, and I was in fact involved with the Homeowners Association in the past. I was on the board and was president for a while. When the previous project for Watermark was under development, I mention that only because I want you to know that I was familiar with the previous project and the attempt by our association to mitigate what we thought might be adverse aspects of it. Those concerns continue with this project, but to a much lesser degree. With the other project, we were able to get some help from the previous developer in mitigating what we thought were adverse effects, and there was more planned mitigation during the full implementation of the project, which of course didn't occur. I did speak at the Planning Commission meeting, and my concerns were regarding the borders, the potential two-story homes along there. There actually only would have been 5 potential two-story homes along the northerly and westerly boundary combined out of 18 homes or so. So it was a small number, but we were concerned about the look of that. Also, I agreed with the Planning Commission, the staff report at the Planning Commission meeting in that the architecture could use some enhancement. And again, I spoke agreeing to that effect at the Planning Commission meeting. I agree with Ms. Christie that the exclusion of the westerly boundary conditions regarding two-story and architectural enhancements was probably almost like an oversight by the commission in the way it wrote up and specified only that those apply only to the northerly boundary. So that's why I approached the city and the developer actually again to speak to Mr. Pena's concern about the process. The only way I saw to correct that situation, and I was happy to see everybody, the city and the developer, listen to me, and the developer's willingness to extend those conditions. So I would ask that the council approve the project. I'm generally in support of it with these conditions that are being considered, and would ask you to fully consider them and perhaps approve them. I would make one little technical change to the memo that you got regarding the extension. I think technically and in essence to mitigate the potential extension of those conditions, I would suggest a little wording change. If you look at the memo on page 2 regarding number K, it says the homes abutting the northern and western boundary of the property shall be provided architectural enhancements on their northern elevation facing the citrus. Actually, when you're talking about the western, extending this condition to the western boundary, you're probably talking about the western elevations. So perhaps just to change that to read on their northerly and westerly respectively elevations would make it alleviate my concerns. I want to thank the council for listening to me and giving me this opportunity, and again, also the developer to listen to me. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them. If not, thank you for hearing me.
Any questions for Robert? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we'll bring up Jennifer Jenkins. Jenkins with a long.
Sorry, it's my handwriting.
Long, looks like a...
It's me. Hi, Jennifer Jenkins. I am the Membership and Marketing Director at the Citrus Club. My address is 49385 Rancho San Francisquito in La Quinta, and I'm here on behalf of the Citrus Club and La Quinta Resort tonight, and I have been employed there for the last 20 years, forever, and have worked with several developers. So I wanted to speak to our relationship with Beazer first, and like they mentioned, we're very close to finalizing our agreement with them, and we're very anxious to have them be partners with us, and we're looking forward to it from the member standpoint and also the HOA standpoint. They mentioned the access for the gate, and that is something that we have done with the developer to the opposite side, which was several years ago, but it was the RJT project, which is now Palmilla, and we've had great success with that. That gate gives access for the golf carts to come through. Of those homes, we have roughly, I think there's 181 homes there or something in that ballpark, and probably about half of them are members at the Citrus. So they enter and exit through that gate, and in the 10 years that they've been there, we've never had a single issue, and it's been a very great partnership with them. So we're looking forward to having that with Beazer. From the architect style and just the overview, a couple of comments I'd like to make is that if I look at developers, which I've been dealing with for 20 years, and probably have touched everybody within a 5-mile radius of Citrus or PJ West. The most recent developers that we're working with are right in that ballpark of the price point that they're looking at, Beazer's looking at. So if you look at Signature, which is at the core property, they're looking at from $500,000 up to $800,000. And again, the home's a little bit more on the simple side versus the building that we did in the early, decade before the meltdown in 2008. And then the last developer at Citrus, which is Blaine Larson's project, it was called The Grove, and he just finished less than a year ago. So we had 18 homes, and I would say the architect's very similar as far as what they were doing compared to what Beezer's doing, and we went through those homes at a record pace. We basically, those 18 homes, we closed from start to finish in less than 18 months. So from a price standpoint, I mean, we never know, but I would say they're in good company, that they're with Signature, and also the new project Montera, which is on the backside of the Norman course, is also going to be starting at that price point too. So I think that we, the club, Citrus, don't have any concerns as far as being good neighbors and being complimentary to the club. We don't want exact cookie cutters, of course, but I think that the fact that they're paying homage to the hotel, of course, I love that, probably because I work there, but I think it's a nice compliment. So those are my comments, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Questions for Jennifer? Yes. Christy, let's start with you.
We'll start with me. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi.
I do have a couple questions. What type of memberships are you looking to sell to these folks?
Well, our arrangement with them, it's golf, but it's really more a marketing arrangement than anything else. And even though we're looking at targeting golf, we certainly expect, just like we did with Palmilla, that it will end up being social and golf memberships.
Okay, and do you sell these to the developer?
Yes.
Okay, and how many are you going to sell? How many are they looking to buy?
Well, actually,
and in what
those
category? Because
golf.
I know they come in golf,
Yeah, golf.
which includes social.
No.
No.
So our golf membership at Citrus is $30,000. It's non-refundable.
Mhm.
The monthly dues are about $1,100. Our social memberships are $5,000, non-refundable. And the arrangement with the developer will be for a certain amount of golf memberships, and then we'll also obviously be adding on social.
Okay, so in an 82-home project,
Mhm.
what number of social and what number of golf memberships are you going to have in this little deal here?
Well, from a contract standpoint, that was just say that it's confidential, so I wouldn't disclose the amount that they're going to be purchasing, but it will be enough to cover their project.
Explain that.
Again, it's.
Can you give percentages? Over 50%, less than 50%?
I would say that we would expect about a 50% conversion.
Okay,
If
and
they were
then-
on golf course, if they were on the Citrus golf course, then we would expect about an 80% conversion. But off golf course, our history shows us it'll be probably about 50%.
And so, are you going to do the same thing that you did at Alta Verde with these folks? They are now members, you can advertise that they belong to PGA West?
No, it's the Citrus.
Okay, so is that going to be on your little signs that,
Mhm.
that they are
Mhm.
Citrus Course members?
Yes, just like it was scheduled with Watermark.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's basically, those are basically my questions. But in terms of what you're doing, or what they're looking to do with your deal, so you sell X number of memberships to them, and then do they in turn offer those to the home buyers
The
at
home,
one point in
it's
time?
kind of it's more of a marketing relationship. So they will agree to purchase a certain amount, and then as the new buyer comes in, the new buyer comes in and joins at the club. They pay the $30,000 or the $5,000. So that relationship, it's just our marketing arrangement with them, but the buyer is actually the one that is writing the check. If Beezer decides that they'd like to throw in a social membership with this home or that home, they certainly can do that.
Okay, so there's no money
There's money.
transferring?
There is between us, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Robert?
You mentioned some other development and the price range that you're looking at. And again, the market is now sustaining smaller lots and smaller homes. Is that the product you're seeing? Is that the product that what the market is demanding?
It's what we're seeing. Since '08, the shift has been for, even though for most of our demographic is, if you are a member at Citrus, it's your second or your third club, so it's your second or third home. So back in the day, they'd have the $1 million or $1.5 million home. Now the buyer's coming and they're doing, I would say, smaller homes, but they still want to have the club and the additional lifestyle. But I am seeing a trend more to I'm not saying 700 is the lower end, but compared to where we were prior to '08, yes.
And my question is, if I may, we have Fraser Lane over here on the drawings up on the right upper corner, and I see some homes there, and I just see a little bit. What is the setback on those homes, if we know, or we can find out? That belongs to Citrus, of course.
Well, I can't tell you how many feet, but on the other side, I mean, obviously, there's actually a big lot, if you will, a grassy lot, and then a road, and then the homes are on the other side of the road. So there's, I don't know how the distance, but it's,
No, I understand, and I asked a general question here.
There are no homes immediately adjacent to the project. There is a roadway. Friesa separates from
Correct.
the closest house. And so the closest house would be the distance of the landscape parkway plus the roadway, which I would estimate to be probably a distance of approximately 50 feet at its narrowest point.
I'd agree with that.
Perfect. I'm asking about if we look at these homes across the street from Fraser Lane, so the northern side, it's right on the monitor. What is the setback on those homes?
Oh, of the homes?
They already
on those
exist,
lots?
yes.
I believe those are standard.
Yeah, their front yard, yeah, I don't believe there are any exceptions granted, so there's a standard front yard setback. It should be either 15 or 20 feet, depending upon the orientation of the garage.
but those are actually their backyards that are facing the road.
There's a handful off
What
of
about the
Friesa Lane
distances
that are,
between the homes?
More than 10 feet.
More than 10 feet?
What?
Is that what I'm trying to ask?
for the front yard setback,
No,
there's.
in between the homes.
In between?
Sideways.
I would say it probably between 10 and 20 feet is probably average.
Robert? If you'd like to come up and join Jennifer and provide us some information, that'd be great.
The homes you see on Fresa.
Yes.
And the homes further to the west are the same distance from that wall. The Fresa Street goes into Citrus Street. From the wall to the curb, there's a perimeter of about 15 feet planted area. There's a 36-foot wide street. The setbacks on our homes, though, along that street are, I believe, 20 or 25 feet to the garage, because I used to park my 29-foot motorhome in the driveway. And the driveway wall, the garage wall was the closest to the street, so it is probably from the house close to 50 feet to the wall. But you'll be able to see. And in fact, with the previous watermark project, with 2-story buildings being there, we had a site study done by the developer, and so the proposal, they gave us some money to plant trees on our side in that perimeter area. And in addition, they were going to build planters, raised planters with citrus trees on their side of the wall to mitigate the view of things. So.
Okay, thank you.
The side yard setback.
Side
Yeah.
yard are the same. I think they're 10 feet total between buildings, so 5-foot setback on the sides, 5 or 10. Yeah, overall, when I saw this project, it seemed to be lesser setbacks, and that was one of my concerns, but the architectural enhancements proposed seem to help out with that, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. This
Other
helps.
questions, Robert?
No, thank you.
Okay, Lee?
No.
Lee, or John?
No, answer it.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
I'm good, Jennifer, thank you. Okay, we have one final request to speak from Art Lambros.
Good evening, Council, Madam. Actually, I just came to support. As you know me.
Please repeat your name and address for the record, Art. Thank you.
Arthur Lambros, 54273 Avenida Rubio in La Quinta. Thank you. And I come to support the project itself as being a resident over 22 years. And if you've known me before, that I was a builder here and built over 30 homes from the Citrus to the Cove. And when I see this project, I see such a benefit to the La Quinta area itself, but also to I don't see that the justice is given to where I've built on Eisenhower Mediterranean homes, but on paper, they don't even look at. But if you go down probably to, who's the guy that does the umbrellas? That for the art show, whatever, the art on the umbrellas, he owns that house. We custom built that house, but the paperwork, though, it doesn't reflect. when I see this, it looks like an extension of the citrus. And some of the lots may be small, but building houses here in the Cove, I have 50 by 100, and I've been putting pools in, previous, so I think, places you can go see. It'll work. But like I said, I just want to see this project go and see that it would be a reflection of something that would benefit La Quinta.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, if there's no other questions or comments, we will now close the public hearing, and the matter is before the council. Any final comments?
Yes. Maybe I should have asked this earlier, but can you financially put a pencil to it, having less density here, and make it work for you? Hello? Somebody? No?
Is this a question of the applicant?
Yeah.
All right, if we can have
Would you like to
Monica
do
come
that?
back up, please.
Open the public hearing again.
I apologize. I thought that the public element was closed.
Oh, I'm reopening the public hearing.
Thank you.
Sorry for responding. Thank you, Nicole.
No, this is what we are proposing. If we're not able to make the product line work within the tentative map proposal, we don't have a project.
Okay, thank you. I'm done now.
Am I
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
we're
you can go.
reclosing
I'm
the
sorry.
public hearing. That's
Sorry,
okay.
Sorry.
It's a valid question.
But I do have a question of Lee. You mentioned that you had gone online and looked at Beazer Homes.
Yes.
And you mentioned a little financial that might not be the best in the world. Why don't you
Yes,
explain that,
I did.
please?
There was a report that in 2005-06, the auditor of Beazer Homes, Deloitte Touche, was fined $950,000 for not telling the investors that Beazer Homes had issued false financial statements.
Oh, really?
Yes. And there was another website that contained numerous complaints about their Beazer Homes, and the construction aspect of the homes was shoddy, and the interior, the cabinets and flooring, and that was shoddy, and that there was quite a bit there. And then those homes throughout the country, all over the country. But at the same time, I talked to others here in California that have worked with Beazer Homes in the past, and they were happy with the group. And so I was concerned with the price point. Is it really that point? But looking at the internet and the research on Beazer Homes, there were a number of complaints about the quality of the homes, and then this one about their financial reporting back in 05-06.
Comments?
Notwithstanding that, too, I still share the same concern that Councilmember Franklin brought up, the tightness of the homes together. Rather than vote no on the project, I would request a continuance, and maybe there's something that we can work out in the track map portion of it. I just don't feel comfortable with the way it's laid out.
Robert?
Well, again, the question comes down to, is this the product? Is this the product that the market is now supporting? Is this the product that we have a buyer profile that will support? As I mentioned before, I do like the aspect of having a single family profile across what will be Silver Rock. And I do commend the applicants and Citrus for working together, finding creative solutions, coming out, and actually supporting each other, and also making demand that improve the project. Again, if the market is driving these homes, and the applicant is saying, we need this amount of homes to make it work, and is within the plan. I understand all the concerns. At the same time, I'd like to see this being worked out where everybody can have some satisfaction that this is the product. I think that the question is this the product? Can it be built? And I do agree with Art Lambrose that sometimes seeing things on paper, they quite don't pay justice. And nothing to say against architects. I mean, this is a difficult process to represent properly and fairly what the final product will be. It is all in the execution. So it comes down, will the Beazer home and the builder be able to execute what they envision here and the kind of somewhat cozy atmosphere they're looking closer, and so those are my comments for now.
Any further comments? Sure. Okay.
While I am, appreciate that Beazer Home has been a good neighbor. I mean, you've talked with the Citrus Course, you've worked with them, and you've made changes to be compliant, not compliant, but cohesive with the Citrus Course. And I really appreciate that, and being a good neighbor with the Citrus Course. But I still have some big concerns regarding, is this the right project to have across the street from Silver Rock? I mean, that's more my concern. I can appreciate the low profile on this and the landscape that you talked about, putting in the landscape here as a, raising a family. I don't know that I'm going to want a home with a 10-foot setback in the front and a 10-foot in the back and 5 feet on each side to have a family with. I mean, you have one little bicycle and boom, you're in the street. So I'm very concerned with the setback issues that we've allowed on this project. So I've got some real reservations in this project in the sense that, is it the right project to have across the street from Silver Rock? I mean, that's more where I'm coming from. I think it fits with Citrus Course, so I'm good with that, and I'm appreciate again what you guys have done in making changes and additions and architectural changes to this and enhancements. I really appreciate what you've done to work with the neighbors, but I just am struggling with the fact, is this the right project across the street from Silver Rock? John?
Yeah, I would agree. The collaboration is commendable, and that lot has been, sitting dormant for a while based on economy. But that doesn't mean the first plan that comes to us is the right plan per se. I do have concerns about the 10 feet component, and I'd rather see a smaller house on those lots than trying to maximize that. And I'm not necessarily sold on the fact that landscaping is going to be what's tying the place together over the home, because if you compare that to the resort's been there since 1926, and that is a long time coming to build the reputation of La Quinta Resort, to say that the design and the placement of the trees is what's going to make that $600,000+ house sell. I do have concerns like Lee regarding the Silver Rock proximity and what we're trying to accomplish as we want development to continue. I just think they're very crammed in here, and it's not just aesthetically pleasing in rows with a big loop street. I appreciate the changes that have been made, the input from residents in the surrounding communities. It's nice that there's been a membership workout with golf, although I'm the one that will argue that golf isn't selling right now and courses are closing right and left. So anything you can do to add membership is going to be great to keep your course going. And that's a good collaboration as opposed to putting another course in. But I would actually support John's recommendation on a potential continuation. There's a lot of elements that we need to change and accommodate here to make this thing go, and we all need to feel very comfortable with what that looks like. And there's pros and cons, but I'm not sold that the pros are outweighing my cons at this point. So,
well, Madam Mayor, if I might, then I might offer a motion to continue the project for 30 days, or for. Is it 30 days or 2 meetings?
So if you continue to a date certain, then you will not need to renotice all the items that would be considered. At a date certain at a council meeting.
Right.
Perhaps we need to provide direction on what we're expecting to see within that time frame.
Right. Yeah. Well, Susan, what would be a date certain? Second meeting in February?
I have to ask Les how much time they would need to address your concerns, and then if it's 30 days, 60 days, we'll look at the council meeting date.
I think what needs, if I could back up, any specifics you can provide to Beazer. Right now, they're fairly general in what you're conveying. As specific as you can get to be able to give information to Beazer to respond to is, I think, paramount. And we'll sort of look at dates, and we can throw dates out, but I think if I could ask for you to maybe try and be as definitive as you possibly could in giving the feedback to them and direction to them, that will certainly be helpful for their, their work, the homework they need to do to come back and revisit this with you. For example, you'd mentioned the question of compatibility with Silver Rock. If there's any way you could elaborate upon that, I think that's a key item. Is it a landscape perimeter treatment issue? Is it something to do with the actual home architecture?
If I can, Madam Mayor. That's a tough question. I can appreciate, you guys need some direction here. All right, if we're going to change it, what exactly do you want changed? And I think one of the consistent things up here is setback issues. We all have a problem with 10-foot setback issues. And the aspect of these 82 homes on these 18 acres is a challenge from it being so tight. If you change that setback from 10 to 20 feet, what's that going to do? Well, obviously it's going to shrink the size of your home, but is it also going to end up reducing the number of lots, from 82 down to some unknown number? And Chrissy, I don't know if you can really dial in on what exactly your concern could be to give them some direction on your challenges.
Well, my main challenge is the side yard setbacks and the front yard setback. I love the home design. I think they're just beautiful. The landscaping complements. I like the collaboration with the citrus. As Jennifer said, that's worked really well at Palmilla. And being, getting to know your neighbors is important. But it's just too much, just too much. You've got to open it up a little bit. And if you're talking about your, I guess I'd like to see something that tightens up your marketing work that you've done. If you're saying that you're going to be selling to families with children, there's no play area for kids, and it's just, yes, it does go to the buyer. So the other thing that kind of struck me too, and I'm concerned about Silver Rock and what we have planned for going in there. This is not compatible with that in the least. And I hate the fact that somebody has to drag their trash can. I mean, on a $650,000 plus home, you're going to wheel your trash, that just, I don't know. That wouldn't be what I would want to do. But I think if you could just open it up, however you might be able to do that, and go with our regular setbacks.
Right. Okay, so we're looking at 20-foot setbacks.
On the front.
On the front.
10 feet on the side.
And if there's any way to reduce the density. I mean, your engineers with MSA, they've dealt with La Quinta for many, many years, and they know us. And I'm sure they can help you with some guidance there. You may lose a number of lots. I mean, it may go from 82 down to some figure I don't know. But I think up here, I like the idea of the motion to put a hold on this for so the second date in February. And maybe within that time frame, you can give us some manner of a design that alleviates some of these concerns with the setback issues and the density. I think, is that it? Mm-hmm. Setback and density.
And I guess I would ask if there's not a thought that the applicant can deliver on a reduced density, we need to know that now.
Yeah, right. Which I asked, and she said no.
Yeah, she said no.
So, because if not, then there's no point in continuing it.
Right.
Okay.
If I could add, if you're looking at a continuance, if that is actually the direction we go, I'd suggest March 3rd as the date. That's 60 days approximately from now. Taking into consideration, it's going to take a few weeks for them to probably be able to review, respond, and then we obviously have to then be able to prepare that and get that to you in a timely manner. So my suggestion would be to consider March 3rd as the date for continuing this too.
Okay. Right, to avoid notice. All right, so with that?
So with that, I'll pose a motion that we continue this project, public hearing, until March 3rd.
There's a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. This item will be continued until March 3rd.
Madam Mayor, if we can take a 5-minute break.
5-minute bio break? Sure. We actually will reconvene at quarter to.
Sure.
The next two slides show the architecture of the building, which has been designed to reflect a typical contemporary regional commercial center, consistent with the architecture of the existing buildings within Jefferson Plaza. Landscaping, the palette includes desert and other drought-tolerant trees and shrubs, an existing landscaped area along Highway 111, which includes lush, mature trees and shrubs, that will remain. An amendment to the Jefferson Plaza specific plan is proposed. The reason for this is currently automobile parts sales without on-premise installation is permitted. Staff could not find in the case record why the installation was singled out to be omitted from the table of permitted uses. However, staff believes that with the development standards of the specific plan, in addition to the process of the site development permit, all matters associated with that land use are adequately addressed. The Planning Commission did on December 9th, 2014, review the proposal and unanimously recommended approval. The applicant has reviewed and accepted the conditions of approval in your council packet. Staff is recommending that the City Council approve the American Tire Depot subject to the attached conditions of approval. This concludes the report. I am happy to answer any questions as well as the applicant. Thank you.
Let's start with staff. Any questions for Jay? For staff? No? All right. Well, you have a question, Shirley?
Yes, thank you. So on this property, excuse me, the building, the only entrance into the building other than a regular doorway is the roll-up door through the very front.
That's correct.
So all cars going in and out, any trucks bringing inventory going in and out are only through that one doorway.
That's correct.
Okay. I struggle with that. I didn't know if you had anything in the back towards the parking lot to come in where the inventory is held.
Nope. This was the model that was proposed by the applicant as well. I don't know, do we have a floor plan in the PowerPoint? There's a floor plan included in the packet.
Right. That's what I'm looking at.
Shows how the logistics of the operation.
Okay. And the second thing is on the traffic plan, so you've got one entrance and exit of the area, but that's right onto the main thoroughfare from, what, Depot Drive over to Home Depot? So you don't see that as a congestion problem or a traffic problem?
It would be consistent with, as you can see from the site exhibit here, though I think I'd mentioned to you, Councilmember Osborne, I thought that there was an alignment with the driveways to the north. It doesn't quite align, but there are drive aisles repeated throughout that driveway, if you will, that leads to Home Depot, that access out to that point. So this would be consistent with that. We did work with them to pull that back from the turn there, if you will.
Okay.
They had previously proposed it closer. They did pull it back. We also had our Public Works Department, our traffic engineer reviewed it, and they have found it to be acceptable. And there's also the ability to circulate around the backside of the proposed building, connecting to the existing IHOP parking as well. So it's not one single ingress-egress point off of Depot Drive. There's the ability to go to the east towards IHOP and then north out as well.
Well, yeah, if you're going west on 111, right, you can be able to get in.
Correct, yeah, but there are multiple access points, if you will, out to Depot Drive, depending on what direction you're heading. If you were wanting to head back east, there is the ability to do that and not have to go out to the signal at this particular point.
Okay, that's all I have for questions. Thank you.
Question?
Yes.
On the east side of the property, adjacent to the parking lot for IHOP, there's no wall, correct?
Correct.
So that's just back of the house there? any entrances or exits out that, any doors?
I believe so. You're talking about the east elevation?
Yes. So that's just basic landscaping back there?
Yeah, pretty much. 3 sets of windows and landscape plan.
Okay. I guess one of the other concerns I get, getting back to trash, I don't know why I'm focusing on trash tonight, but we have the trash bin right at the entrance.
Right.
Where there would be a truck that would be backing out, you'd have to pull that thing in, the truck would be somehow either blocking that driveway. Why wouldn't we put it around the backside of the building over on the south side where the space is 11 feet 5 inches and just move that?
I think the intent for having it at that location is again, the proximity to the main door, serving the access point, serving the building. We could certainly ask the applicant if they would be willing to relocate it. Certainly, there is that potential of the vehicle blocking, the Burtec truck blocking during the service. But again, those are fairly quick, and I would anticipate at an operation like this, their service is probably not as frequent as it would be for like a restaurant. So it's probably maybe once or twice a week versus every day like you'd see at a restaurant.
And if I may add, plans were routed to Burtec, and they have signed off on this site plan and it works with their circulation for their trucks.
Okay, and what do we have in the space on the southwest corner?
The southwest corner?
No, it's an entrance kind of thing here. I mean, it looks square here, but as you drive in, as you're focusing, as you're driving down Highway 111, you know, you could be turning right. That's just a landscape area?
Landscape planner.
That's, okay, it's a planner.
And in front of that is the existing monument sign for the center, is
Okay.
right there by the signal.
Okay. That's all for now?
Christie?
No, I have no questions.
Okay, Robert?
I have no questions.
Yeah, I guess when Lee brought up the whole Depot Drive, when you're going straight across from Costco, you know, you either have to turn right or you have to go straight, and you don't know those things before you get into the parking lot, depending on if you're in the right lane or the left lane. Yeah, and that's always and then there's immediate, you know, side turns that are either going to the Jack in the Box side or going, it's a little bit peculiar because the folks coming out of Home Depot to want to get out of the thing that are turning left, they don't always stop. And yeah, I don't see that that's really a fluid process now for as many trips as I make into that center, but I guess if now they're going to have another option to turn right into the tire component. There's a lot of landscaping happening, and will the marquee sign, the eyebrow sign, be sufficient enough? Or are they going to have signage in the monument sign on the street so that they're actually visible?
We'd have to have the applicant respond to the issue of the monument sign because that's a center sign. I'm not sure what a relationship they have with them regarding that. But what they proposed to us was presented by them, so
Just the
we would
eyebrow.
anticipate that they view that as adequate signage to serve their needs.
And then when we look at the tire, adding the repair component, will it be limited to just tire service, or are they going to do oil changes and things like that?
It's exclusive to tire service.
Okay, because that way we don't need any of the other waste, drains, et cetera, all the automotive components that are taxing. Okay. I don't have any other questions. Sure.
Thank you. Again, from a traffic flow standpoint, and the 111 front, the parking lot on the 111 side, why not have an exit out the back that would go towards where the parking lot is for IHOP? To give a separate entrance and exit versus just the one?
That will exist. That's what I'd mentioned earlier. There will be, they're at the southeast corner, if you will, of the site.
Right.
That will connect to the existing
Okay.
IHOP parking lot. So you can see on this aerial.
Okay.
So you'll be able to come around the east side of the building and come out those other aisles at IHOP. So there's those two access opportunities.
Okay.
Thank you.
That helps. Okay, any other questions of
Yep,
staff?
we talked about oil, but there's spaces in here for oil recycling?
Right.
Again, the applicant may be able to respond to that. I know there are certain obligations the state has for collection, so that might be the case, but it has not been identified to us that there would be any oil service work. It would be tire, tire replacement, tire repair only.
Got it. We'll ask the applicant. Thank you.
Well, then let's go ahead and open the public hearing and bring the applicant up for additional questions and comments.
Good evening. Excuse me, I'm under the weather a little bit. So my name is Petros Darchan, 2411 East Foothill Boulevard, Pasadena, California, 91107. Just a broad picture of American Tire Depot. It's a company that started about 22 years ago by two friends with one store in Fullerton. Today, after 22 years, they have about 80 stores from Sacramento to San Diego, from Santa Maria to this, Indio actually is the limit, and planning on about 20 to 30 in the next couple of years. The business is mainly tires, sales and installation of tires, in which 10-15% is minor auto repair services such as brakes, alignment, shocks. They don't like to do oil change, but they always have containers for repetitive, customers that, do my oil change, and they will do, but they don't advertise oil changes. As of delivery, basically the main thing is, the first day when they stock tires, a big truck will come in with a few hundred tires. Thereafter, basically, they get 1 or 2 shipments a week, and the truck is not there for more than like 10 minutes, because what they do, they just drop the tires, they roll them inside, they stock them inside, then, they put them all on the shelf, usually have it about half hour, 45 minutes before opening. Right now, actually, they are, because they just opened one in Cathedral City. We're opening one in Indio. There is this one. So they're having a warehouse close by here that, a delivery large trucks that will never be in and out. Usually small box trucks, they bring the tires, and all the loading, unloading happen on the inside. As of the signage, they're planning on using probably part of the monument sign to have a name on it, and probably another sign on the building, which will, submit that later on. As Mr. Wu said, that we agree with all the conditions, and if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Okay. Questions of, is it Bedros or Petros, P or
Bedros,
B?
no. P is Armenian from Armenia, B is Armenia from the Middle East, so it's look like
So it's not like B or P? Bedros.
Bedros, yeah, perfect, yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay, questions?
Is this a proposed color of the building?
Pardon me?
The proposed color of the building?
No, actually, it's not, it's completely off. No, it's not.
Well, if you heard our discussion about the houses,
Because
we would need to know what
actually,
color this is going to
the
be.
beige and this is the most difficult color to print. I mean, there is the palette, and then they recommended that the darker, brownish color to be more maroon, like something to say, okay, this is different building, and we'll submit the sample to Mr. Wu, prior to approval. No, it's not good.
Several other tire stores, some of your competitors, often will, have stacks outside once they open as kind of props to show that they're soliciting tires. Is that in the plans, and or is that something that the developer of the center needs to approve, kind of like our sandwich boards versus tire stacks that are visible from the street?
Usually they do that because they don't have place to store them
That's why,
inside.
yeah.
That's why they put them outside. Actually, I mean, if they load, unload, sometimes like because they threw the tire inside 5 minutes, but no, the plan is never to have them out with flags and, tires, and absolutely, not.
And based on the fact that you're doing some minor auto repairs, and you talked about alignment
Yes.
and brakes, there's obviously liquids involved with that. Are there any extra components that we need to accommodate for the recycling piece and or disposal?
There is like container, they're about 100 gallon. They have one for used oil, and then they have a small one in case somebody want antifreeze, coolant. Again, it's all approved by the fire department, and this, they picked up by certified, people. They dump them, they're confined in an area not to spill. Everything is, because they have to get their license for the separate permit from the state for that, yeah.
Other questions?
Well, I just want to say, I'm glad you're coming to La Quinta. I've been buying tires at the Indio.
Me too.
For 20 years, so I'm really glad to see you bring it here to La Quinta.
Sure. I mean, sorry, they do a study always on the market. They have a company, and basically it is, I mean, right now we have about 10 new ones from San Diego all the way to this area and around Fresno. But this has the priority to construct because they know the market will be good for them and profitable, you know, I mean, profitable to them and then beneficiary to the community, because the more competition, the more, you know, they give Legoland tickets, you know, buy tires, you get 4 Legoland tickets.
So do you, I'll just go from a sales perspective here. Competitors often will have a warranty program where something happens and you get the flat. It's really like a $30 replacement instead of buying an entire new tire. That, I'm very familiar with that with motorhomes and trailers and tires blowing on the road, that it's just, oh, we'll just take it back to ABC Tire and it gets exchanged for a $30 fee. It's almost like a core charge. Is that, do you have a similar program that you
I mean,
promote?
they have a warranty, like, you know, yeah, they do have a program, you know, warranties on tires. I mean, again, you know, they really became big now. They just opened, they were in about 75,000 square foot warehouse. They moved to 250,000 square foot warehouse in the city of La Mirada. So, I mean, they want to be competitive. So that's why, you know, they have to be always, you know, like, you know, buy 3, get 1. They have like, you know, now they are associated with the Clippers, you know, they're trying to give Clippers ticket. So they just want, you know, like every city, and this is American Tire Depot, I'm sure you know. The other one is America's Tire. They're a lot bigger. But, you know, now, before, everywhere there was America's Tire, we used to look for a location there. Believe it or not, now everywhere American Tire Depot opens, America's Tire want to follow because they know that, you know, they're good at it. So
Where is your Indio location proposed?
the Indio location is at, actually, I just came from there, I think 18191. It used to be an old dealership, run down big lot. So we're doing, you know, we're just under construction. They just started. We got the permit there. It's on Highway 111. I think it's like.
Oh, it's
yeah.
probably Monroe and 111-ish. Sounds like if it was a big lots. Yeah. Okay. Question? Any other questions?
Yes, just from an operational point of view, this is typical of what you have in the other location, the design of the building, the way is structured?
You know, each area, each city will look at it differently. You know, like, I mean, this area, we knew if we came with 4 bay doors open to the outside, the answer would be no. I mean, it's more, you know, functional. It's the other way. It's a lot better to get in and out than to work inside. But then we take to consideration before even, you know, we come to the board and say, you know what, we're not going to approve it. So we know how sensitive is the area, and one of them was the one in Rancho Cucamonga. I mean, the city council said that when first we heard, you know, that tire store in Victoria, you know, Gardens area, oh, said something is wrong. But they said the bad thing about it now, you said a new standard for all tire stores or auto repair coming to the city, because it's the same type of building. You know, we had a large lot, it's about 8,500 square feet. But we have one in Fontana. I'm not insulting the city of Fontana, but, you know, we have like 6 bays, you know, it's all toward the outside. And we got that approved. I mean, we look around what's around and how it is. We talk to planning, we meet with the planner talk to their, you know, supervisors, and this is the way before we start, so.
Perfect. Self-enclosed operation.
Yeah.
Great.
That's great.
Perfect.
Okay. Thank you very much, Betty.
Thank you, appreciate it.
There's no other public comment, so yes, Stan?
If I, just for the record, that was news to us with the additional services, which, hearing that, I guess we even more are stronger in support of 1 bay door because that's going to minimize noise and other associated impacts with those other services they'll be offering. That was always, or not always, but was one of the concerns of ours was bay doors and exposure to 111. But obviously now, knowing there's other services, that's going to keep that more contained and intact. I also want to mention, too, that the applicants represented to us that if for some reason this business wasn't able to make it at this location, the design of the building is set up in such a way that it could be converted to another use other than the tire store, so it could become a retail pad in the future. We hope they're successful and everything's fine, but if for some reason that didn't work out, this is not exclusively designed just for that purpose. It could be converted to another use in the future.
Well, okay, so then that prompts a question, if you could please come back up, Pedros. So if we're only at a one bay compared to what does Cathedral City or Indio have, are we going to have a wait time where people will say, well, I'll just go over to your other shop, and they're not going to stay in La Quinta because it won't be able to be turned over?
No, actually, the way it's designed, that you go in, there's one, no, it's not one bay. We have like 5, lifts and alignment. It's all
Okay.
inside.
It's just the visual.
No, but I mean,
Okay.
we can accommodate 5 cars at a time.
Okay.
Yes,
All right.
thank you.
I don't want to get cheated now that we're too small. Again, I buy a lot of tires. Okay, with that, I will close the public hearing, and the matter is before the council.
Would you want like a motion?
I would love one.
Okay. I move adoption of City Council Resolution 2015-03, approving a specific plan amendment and site development permit for a new 6,720 square foot tire retail and installation store, and find the project exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Welcome to La Quinta.
One thing I want to mention, I forgot to say, it's really, no, it's nothing with the project. It's nothing with the project.
It's actually
It is a
pink.
pleasure doing business with your city. I mean, I have project in about 20 cities right now, and I said it before, and I'm saying it now. Credit to Mr. Wu, to his, management, and to you guys, because I never seen a customer service like this.
Excellent.
I mean,
Thank
the
you
day I
very
call,
much.
he doesn't call me back. I have something is wrong. He didn't call back. What happened? But it is really, truly, it's a pleasure doing business. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Have a great evening.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All stems from the council.
Yeah, it starts at the top. Just saying.
Good job.
Okay, with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Have a good evening, everybody. We are adjourned.
See you Saturday.
Hopefully you'll be there. Hopefully you'll be there.